with you. I wanna groove with you. Let that rhythm get into you. Don't try to fight it. There ain't nothing that you can do. Relax your mind. Lay back and groove your mind. You gotta feel that heat, and we can ride the boogie. Share that beat of love. I wanna rock with you all night. Dance you into sunlight. I wanna rock with you all night. We're gonna rock the night away. Out on the floor, there ain't nobody there but us. Girl, when you dance, there's a magic that must be love. Just take it slow. You got so far to go. When you feel that heat, and we gonna ride the boogie. Share that beat of love. I wanna rock with you all night. Dance you in the sunlight. I wanna rock with you all night. We gon' rock the night away. And when the groove's dead and gone, yeah, you know that love survives, so we can rock forever.
What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Hope everybody's doing very well. It has been a very long week for me. We were supposed to do this stream yesterday, but honestly, I feel just due to the copious amount of data that we have to go over, I think a little bit more research was necessary, and I feel like due to the sensitivity of the topic, we really need to do good research before we make sweeping allegations. And I think that's one of the biggest tragedies of the Michael Jackson story. There was so much gossip, especially in the 1990s and 1980s, and people lived in a time where receipts weren't necessary. You just need to say something really salacious and really outrageous, and people would go with it. But before we get into some of the more unfortunate parts of the Michael Jackson story, I want to focus on what's happening right now. So you guys know that the new Michael Jackson biopic being directed by Antoine Fuqua, who, if I'm not mistaken, he did Training Day, and another movie called Southpaw. Really good movie. That has who's in that movie? Jake Gyllenhaal. He plays a boxer in that movie. Really good movie. He's a kind of a gritty director, so it was an interesting choice. Antoine Fuqua. He was a very different kind of director. And when I think of Michael Jackson, I don't necessarily think of those kind of movies, but who knows? I mean, there's a darkness to Michael Jackson, but there's also a lot of happiness and optimism. And I honestly think more on the light and the positivity associated with Michael than necessarily the bad parts of his life. So with that being said, I want to bring on my co-host, Lashid4U. What's up,
Hey,
Lashid?
how y'all doing? Let me see. Can you see me?
I can see you. I like the background.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm hoping you don't see my sewing room and everything back here. But yeah, set up this green screen. So I hope it's all covered up. So
It's working. It's working for you. It's working for you.
all
Absolutely.
right. All right. So how y'all doing?
So
That was an awesome opening. I love that opening.
yeah, you know what? That was a remix done by a DJ by the name of Reflex. He does
Okay.
a lot of great remixes. Actually, I'll share his channel with you a little bit later. But I like a good DJ. I like somebody who can take the essence of a song and sort of kind of remake it. I like how this song was almost like put together piece by piece, and you
Now
kind
who's
of
this
got an
again?
idea of what his name was. Reflex. He's a
Reflex.
DJ.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
So to my understanding, how he did it was he used these multi tracks, which are not just the instrumental, but the instrumental broke down to from the strings to the drums. Like it's really hard to get those, but when you get those, you can really structure the song back together, take it apart, put it up round. There's so many different ways you can do it when you use multi tracks. So I really enjoy that remix. I really enjoy his work in general.
Okay. Yeah, can you believe that I remember when that song was brand new? I was a little
I
child, but I
really know.
remember. Yep, I had started school around that time. It was late 70s. Yep, I was already in school in kindergarten.
You know, I was talking to a friend recently, and we're all millennials, and I said, "Do you remember dark skinned Michael Jackson?" He was like, "No, I've only known light skinned Michael Jackson." And I'm like, "That is also true.
Wow, that's crazy.
Did not remember dark skinned Michael Jackson. I've only known him to be light skinned. I knew that there was a time that he was dark
Wow.
skinned, and I knew that he was black. It's like he was black, but like I
Now,
wasn't
my
around,
initial
or
oh, I'm sorry.
I would just say I wasn't around for that time period where he was dark skinned, and nor was
Wow,
I around for the time period where he transitioned to what he became ultimately.
that was a great time. That was a great time to know and listen to and watch Michael Jackson. That was a great time. Now, my first memories with Michael Jackson were it wasn't the Jackson, it wasn't the Jackson 5. But it was the Jacksons. It was when he wasn't solo as of yet. My very first memories, like okay, my memories go as far back as like let's say 77, maybe 77, definitely. Yeah, my memories go back to for sure 77. And my memories of Jackson, my earliest memories of Michael Jackson was with the Jacksons. It wasn't quite the Jackson 5 anymore, but now because I believe Randy was like now also a part of, so that would have made him 6. He was actually younger than Michael, the youngest brother. So now it was the Jacksons, and it was songs like let me show you way to go, and the good times. It was those songs. during that time. It was post Jackson 5, but right before he went solo. I remember when Off the Wall was brand new. I definitely remember. Yeah, of course everybody had, well, every black person definitely had that album. So yeah.
So yeah, you remember more the Sony years, right? When he transitioned from out of Motown and he was more, in many ways, the more commercialized side of the Jackson Five. If you think about it, you understand the Jackson Five is associated with Motown, and the Jacksons, they're associated with Sony, Epic when they were on
Yeah, it
television.
was more of the epic years, like with me. Well, that was most of my childhood. That was now most of my childhood and teenage years was in the 80s. So that was now the 80s was more epic. That was more, the epic with the blue, Yeah. So yeah, those are of course my primary memories being the Thriller album, because that was like all through my, yeah, that was my grammar school years. Thriller, Michael Jackson. He was like, man, he was the biggest in my childhood. So
So you were like a young teen, like 13, 14, when
well,
Michael Jackson was
I was still a child. Like, yeah, when Thriller came out, let me see. I don't give exact age, but I'll put it this way. I was like 8, 9. I was like 8 years old. I'll put it, yeah.
Oh yeah, you were
Yeah,
still a
8, 9,
kid.
10. Yeah.
So when
Now
he
I was
started to
18
transition to
was
like a
bad.
light skinned,
Yeah, I had turned a teenager by that time. I just turned a teenager.
how did the media describe that when you were growing up? Like I can only tell you what it was like when it was already done. But when people started to notice, wait a minute, like
Well,
around 1985, 1986 is when it became a radical change.
yeah, okay. Now there was a Thriller album, of course, and that kind of, because albums back then, it seemed like albums stretched out a little longer. It was like with the Thriller album, it was, you know how now like there's a song after song after song. Whereas it was like back then in the 80s, like one song from the album that would be played for months, and then the next song. So the Thriller album, even though it was like released in December of 1982, it totally dominated 1983 and even went into 1984. But Prince, Prince got a little more shine eventually in 1984. But the Thriller album, the songs went into like 84 even. And then there was that period, yeah, and Prince began to dominate a little more, like especially by the summer of 84. He became a little, even though Prince had already been out, of course, there was the 1999 controversy and all that before that. But it was really, really Prince getting the attention. But then Michael Jackson kind of disappeared. It seemed like he disappeared. You only saw him. Okay, there was the victory to, or there was the, with the Jacksons. I remember Torture and Jermaine Jackson was getting a little shine in 84. But only time you kind of saw him besides with the touring with the Jackson, I think it was like the Victory Tour. It was, I don't know. It seemed like after the whole Pepsi incident where he got burned and everything, it's like he kind of disappeared. You only saw him like in the "We Are the World" video. Now, if paying attention to that video, you can notice he's looking a little more on the caramel tip, a little. But we didn't really. I don't recall anybody really pointing it out or talking about it. But now, when you look back on it, yeah, you only saw him like in 85, and it was like he just totally disappeared until 1987. I remember the first song that was from the Bad album was "I Just Can't Stop Loving You." That was the first song that was released from the Bad album. And that's when, yeah, you saw the album and there was the video. Eventually, there was
But
no
let's
video.
actually go back a
Yeah.
little bit before then, because
Okay.
now in social media, like you can't get a hairstyle change without people noticing. There's camera phones. It's one of those things where you can't really get the level of privacy as you could have gotten, say 20 years ago, where you can just hide away and no one knows what you look like for a while. But let's go back before the
Mhm.
the bad era, because the bad era, that's when people start to know, wait a minute, he looks way different. Michael Jackson did a very small project called Captain EO, and during that project you really start to see, okay, he looks
Mhm.
very different physically. And even with Captain EO, you can tell that he was using some of that as an idea, a way to create ideas for bad. One of the songs from Captain EO, Another Part of Me, was even used during the Bad album. So like it was definitely a transition point. And let me just share
But believe
this
it or
because I
not, if I may say, people didn't talk about it as much. People didn't. Now, yeah, like
really.
you'll watch something like I Love the 80s and who was that? Kathy Griffin. Who was that one comedian with the red hair? She was saying that was when Bad came out around that time. That's when he was in his mulatto stage, as she joked. But people, I don't know, I guess because it was the 80s, and because Michael Jackson had a pet chimp, he had
So
a pet monkey, he was hanging with Emmanuel Lewis. People still, for the most part, loved Michael Jackson and kind of overlooked a lot. I start hearing the criticism around, like, when you start hearing people like who is it? What's her name? Fashion Police. The host of Joan
Joan
Rivers.
Rivers.
Yeah, I recall her first coining the term. Now, this was around like late 87, 88. Then he became Jacko. That was short for Wacko Jacko. I remember her I think that she was the one who initially coined that term. And understand that my mom used to get all those tabloids, like Inquirer, Star Magazine, Globe, and all that. And then I remember, yeah, it just seemed like around late 87, early 88, and I have my own theory as to why that is. That's when people just start criticizing Michael for little things. There were rumors that he had AIDS, because he's so skinny. Of course, there was always, certain people, questioning his sexuality. Was he gay? Was he? Yeah, but there were rumors that, yeah, that's when the rumors started, especially around 1988. And I do have my theory as to why that was. But for the most part, yeah, because you had something, you got to understand, that was the time of Boy George. It was, I don't know. I guess he was being
Well,
seen.
in these photos, this is 1985, and you can definitely see like a change in the skin. Uh,
Yeah,
and he says this is from vitiligo. I agree that a lot he did suffer from vitiligo. It was proven in his autopsy.
yeah.
But this looks more like a makeup kind of a situation, probably him trying to hide the blotches. But you can definitely see this is that transition period where it's not exactly how he looked in bad, which would be like 87.
Yeah, but because you were seeing a lot of that. Like, I was noticing, like, for instance, Jodie Watley, she was appearing. So I don't know if we just saw it as makeup, or because that was something I was also noticing. Like Jodie Watley, like in the music video, and how
Mm.
she looked one color. That was something I was definitely noticing, being a big fan of Jodie Watley. So
Y'all
I don't
thought
know.
that was makeup?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We didn't know. And you gotta understand, I was a preteen at the time, but people, they still wasn't, because Michael had did the We Are the World and everything. So for the most part, people still was in love with Michael Jackson. They still had this love for Michael Jackson. But I do notice that it was around after the Bad album, and sometime around, especially by 1988, that's when I start seeing more and more in the tabloids. Whereas before,
Mm.
it was like everybody, I mean, Michael Jackson, he was hanging with the celebrities from the golden era of Hollywood. He was hanging with people like Betty Davis and Yul Brynner. You know what I'm
Well, you
saying?
know what? Michael's a little odd like that. Now, I wonder if there could be some level of some type of developmental disorder with the Michael. And I'm not trying to be like funny. I'm being serious because his friends were either significantly older than him or significantly younger than him. And
Mm.
he really didn't enjoy spending time with people around his age. He liked, and a lot of them didn't like him either because Michael would pretend like, oh, I don't like being around Hollywood. All they do is do drugs all day. Meanwhile, like he's in Neverland high as a kite. So it's like for them, it's like you're judging us
Oh,
for being these drug addicts and we're just out of control. But you're doing the exact same thing, but you're
but you
doing it
believe
in the
that?
privacy of your own. No, I actually do believe that. I think his drug problem really did become an issue, especially towards the end of the Bad tour, because of just the demand that it puts on your body. All that spinning and falling on the ground. Yeah, that's dynamic. It's amazing. But you got to bear in mind, Michael's 31, 32 at this point. Years of putting just work on your body, dragging yourself, spinning around, all of that. His knees are probably like glass at this point. And
I
he's just
don't
putting all this
believe.
work on himself. And a lot of people get addicted to pills. It's not an uncommon thing.
Yeah, but you know what? I kind of believe that, and this is just my belief, that now he did admit, after, okay, they said that they had, he had the option after he was burned, severely burned, to, take certain pain pills, but he rejected because he didn't want to get addicted. He was much like Prince. They were actually more, anti-drugs, but eventually the pain got intense after he was burned, and so eventually started taking pain pills. But yeah, I
I
think
wonder about that anti-drug though, because a lot of times people they have an image and they have a responsibility to their fans. So most of them are not going to say, "Yeah, let's do drugs. Drugs are great." But low key, they have their own vices, they have their own addictions. Michael was also in the, what was it, Studio 54
oh yeah,
environment. So
yeah.
it was not the first time he'd been around drugs. You think they weren't doing cocaine? They're doing all kinds of stuff in there. And
Oh no, but
he went to
I don't
Studio
believe Michael was
54.
messing with
I'm not saying that he
cocaine.
was, but I'm not saying that he was. It was a new thing or something that was so exotic or different. I can see him consuming drugs and using the excuse of I'm in pain, because he is in pain. That's how a lot of people become addicted to pain pills. He is legitimately in pain. This isn't him just saying I'm in pain and pretending and just wanting to get high. It probably started from a real place, like a lot of people.
But to be Michael Jackson, and you have to be very, very disciplined. This was the king of pop. This was a man who was, when it came to his shows, his performances, his um there I find it very hard to, like, when I consider Paula Abdul, who I believe developed, like an addiction to, painkillers. And when you consider how far back that was, I do kind of think that he also spoke on that maybe a little for sympathy. You know what I'm saying? He kind of, I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm not saying that he didn't develop an addiction. And I will say this, something that I didn't know about until something that you recently shared with me just watching. I didn't know that he had this really bad accident. What was this, like 1999? Did it say? Did the documentary say? I didn't know that
Yes.
he had that. I had no idea about. Now, yeah, that's something new to me. Now,
Mhm.
perhaps later in his life, but I don't know if you had saw the video that I had did. Now, Dick Gregory said, it was just a thing of him. He was having problems sleeping. He was having problems. He was suffering from insomnia. That was his only real issue, like him suffering from insomnia. Um,
Well, a lot of times it's a combination of things. If you have a lot of pain
yeah,
issues and you have neuropathy, and then you can't go to sleep, and then you have all of these demands on you, and then you have all of these stressors. I mean, I think a lot of times people forget he was a human being. And I think a lot of times he was so associated with just this magic and he seemed immortal, like he couldn't, like, and we know everyone's going to die at some point, but
yeah.
like there was so much magic associated with Michael Jackson that when he died like a mortal, it was like, oh my god, that's how it ended.
But
Exactly, that's
considering
exactly how it
how
ended.
he, me, see, I was one of those persons. I had people that were doing drugs and stuff around me, but I wasn't. I had people getting high around me every day, but not once did I participate with those people, and they would get high. I mean, that 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 can be the case. But when I'm being that Michael Jackson was someone who interacted with kids, I mean, knowing people who were addicted to drugs and stuff, and considering how disciplined he had to be the king of pop, the greatest entertainer in the world, you know highly in demand, and he was also one who interacted with children, playing with children. I don't believe that he had this addiction, like going back to the 80s. He may have developed around that time when he was burned, but especially when I consider, like, you look at the footage of him in Neverland, and I mean, and interacting with kids, interacting with his family. But I will say that there was this period that was questionable, that period that he did disappear, especially. And I believe that where it seemed like he cut off everybody, including his family. And he just hanging with
Absolutely.
these Hollywood. I was about to say Hollyweird. Yeah, I meant Hollyweird. But he's hanging with people like Liza Minnelli and all. And he was that. I don't know if you know about this, but Jermaine. I remember Jermaine Jackson. Was this like early 90s or late 80s? He had did like a song, "Word to the Bad." It was kind of like a diss
Yeah, I
song
heard of,
because there was this one point where he just straight up cut off. Now I got my little theories in regards to that, but there was this point where he almost as if there were people keeping them. Because even Janet Jackson herself, she said around the time of Thriller, around the time he was winning, I remember he was just winning Grammy after Grammy, and at that time he was wearing the Beatles Sgt. Pepper jackets, and he was wearing dark shades, and that was something he wasn't really doing before. But he would be going to the Grammys, award shows, and everything with these dark shades on. That was, I'm not gonna lie, during that time period, it was something. I do question that little time period. Like I'd say from like 84 to, especially after he was burned. Well, around that time from 84 to like up until the Bad album, or I'd say like until 80, 87, 88. Yeah.
Well, it's safe to say he had handlers, and especially as
Yeah,
he
you know what I'm getting
removed
at.
Joe Jackson from his, business, when he removed him from the business, of course, there's going to be other people who are going to fill that void. So I'm not surprised. There is something I want to share with you. I don't want to necessarily put this on the stream
Okay.
because I feel as though I'll just share it with you. But going back to this movie that's about to come out next year, probably in April or May of 2025. You've seen a couple of clips, you've seen some photos. What is your impression of where things are with this movie?
Okay.
Lashid?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought you were going to show right now.
I will in a little bit, but
Okay, now this is the one that the family. This is with Antoine Fuqua, right? As a director,
yes.
right?
Mhm.
That the family is. Yeah, like I said, I don't now today. I don't really. I'm not trusting any biopics on celebrities. Like, I know my husband was watching the one on. I told you about the one with James Brown with Chadwick Boseman, late Chadwick Boseman. I was not interested in watching because it's like this. I don't trust these biopics today.
It wasn't
Now,
good.
huh?
It
Yeah,
wasn't good
yeah, I
anyway.
was not interested in watching. However, and the only reason I watched, like, for instance, the biopic on Fred Hampton, or the Judas and that's because Fred Hampton Jr., his son, and his, well, I know they weren't married, but I'll still say his widow. They were heavily involved. But I guess I could trust this, being that the family is heavily involved. They I'm not looking at the fact of whether or not it's biracial. I know some people say I should. I'm not really looking at that, but because he did kind of become when you think about it. Yeah, as
I
long
mean,
as
that's just gonna be like that's gonna be a recurring theme through this whole movie. It's gonna be the musical chairs of skin complexion through this whole movie with Michael
yeah,
Jackson and the actors playing them because it just is what it is.
and that's
But
still
like
the
even if we look
story.
at the movie, the miniseries, excuse me, you had the Willie Draper, you also had Jason Weaver. I mean, technically Jason Weaver didn't look that much like Michael, and I would say Willie didn't look that much like Michael, but they both
They did
did it.
awesome job.
Yeah, they both captured his essence and did an amazing job. So at the end of the day, I think as long as they do that, I think it's going to be an excellent movie. My concern is
Now,
both of
can
these
I ask,
men,
you don't think that late actor, the one who passed away from leukemia or whatever, you don't think that
Willie,
you don't think that he looked, yeah, was that his name? You don't think that he looked like Michael Jackson?
like in passing, I guess. And if we're talking Michael Jackson, we're talking Michael Jackson as he transitioned to a light skinned
Yeah, the
person,
younger,
sure.
I mean, but the Michael Jackson, I mean, the Thriller years, Michael. I think he was, from what I remember, my childhood memories, my grammar school memories, Michael. Yeah, because these are the memories I have most of Michael Jackson. I think he was a perfect cast.
I mean, close enough. I mean, the
Okay.
main thing is, like, I think he definitely did. He had his physical, like, I think they have a very similar, like, shape. They're both very thin and kind of have that
Yeah.
dancer's build. He definitely did a great performance. The voice was on point. It's like I feel as though there's more things that come into it. Like if you look at the Malcolm X biopic, Denzel didn't look much like Malcolm, but he did a
Yeah,
very
he
good
ain't look
job
anything like,
capturing
but
it
yeah, you're right.
because Denzel has that, that regal kind of demeanor. He has that
Yeah.
very crisp poise presentation. So like it worked. So I think it may work, but let's look at some of these. Let's look at the casting. So We know this kid is significantly lighter than what he is in this picture, so we're using a darker makeup for him for these younger
Let me put on my
years.
reading glasses.
So yeah, I already know
Oh,
people are gonna act the fool when this movie come out. I already know Twitter is gonna be lit up. If I'm still around, I'm gonna let y'all know about it. But I can tell you, it's gonna be, and they got him in the wig too. It's people are gonna complain about it. I already know how they get down
but you know
about
what?
this
I can
colorism
see it. I
topic.
gotta, you know what? I gotta see him in motion. I gotta see him in motion. Yeah,
Oh, he
yeah.
dances like Michael. He dances like Michael. Absolutely, he dances
You
just
know what?
like him.
I can see it. I can see it. I can see it. Is it the hair gonna have to be on point though? I don't want to see no obvious looking wig. Yeah, the fro is gonna have to be on point.
Well, you know, the people complained though when they did that biopic on Nina Simone, and they hired
Oh,
what's her name at the tip of my
uh,
tongue? Not
you.
Rosario Dawson, the other.
I know.
Um,
You know. I know. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Let me Google the one
please.
from Avatar. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Y'all gotta help us out. Now you know me. I got this. Zoe Saldana. Zoe Saldana.
Zoe Saldana. Remember when they painted her this color, and then they flattened her nose to kind of make her look like what they thought Nina Simone should look like.
And see what people don't understand. They felt that people were complaining it was much ado about nothing. They have to understand that Nina Simone, how she looked, that played a lot into her art or who she became, because her experiences due to her Afrocoid/Negroid features that had an effect on her as an artist. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
people can also make the same argument that this is, you know, erasing Michael Jackson's black origin and kind of rebranding him as some type of mixed kid.
well, I don't know. In the case with Michael Jackson, I kind of see that a little differently. I know I'm sounding biased with that. With Nina Simone,
Yeah,
that's
very
kind of
biased.
like, no. Like, okay, for instance, if there's a biopic on my life, okay, it's gonna have to be somebody who's got you. I'm not gonna have somebody with no thin nose, slim lip. You know what I'm saying? Because my
Right on.
features, you understand, and me being a short person, for instance, or me being a person who used to have big breasts, and me being teased as a child, and you know what I'm saying. I'm not saying everything got to look exact, but those specific experiences I had because of those specific features, they contributed greatly to who I am today. Do you understand what I'm saying? I wouldn't want.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm sorry, no tall person could play me in no movie. No, I'm a short person. I had a short person's experience. Do
Mm.
you understand what I'm saying? That's a little
No, right
different.
on.
Yeah, I don't
What
know.
about Nia? What about Nia Long as Catherine? I actually think
Oh,
this is a
I
good
see her.
casting.
I see her.
I
Now
definitely
the
see it.
thing is, Catherine, considering her light, high-pitched voice, she was a very soft-spoken woman. Um, well, yeah, I can see. I'm thinking of Nia Long back when she did Boys in the Hood. You know,
Yeah, Nia's like 50 now.
yeah, because Catherine Jones comes off as a very gentle woman with a very soprano voice. She comes off as a very gentle, God-fearing, you know, Stepford wife, mom. Yeah.
Moving
So,
on to the nephew, this is Jafar Jackson dressed up in Michael, probably somewhere around circa 83, 84. And then another picture of him, probably somewhere in the early 90s. So you can see that they definitely addressing this whole skin situation. And it's much better than what they did with Flax Alexander.
okay, I can see it. I can see it. At first, with me hearing about it, I didn't know, but I can see it, especially with the footage that you have shared with him, seeing him in motion and everything. Now, how he gonna do with the lip sync, and I don't know, but I can see it. Excuse me, with the
Jafar's voice is not good, but it's one of
Oh,
those things where like he's like a C singer, but he has a similar tone to Michael. So it's like if Michael couldn't sing, this is what he would sound like. So it's one of those things where number one, he better lip sync, but even when he's not lip syncing, it sounds enough like Michael where you could say, "Oh, that
yeah,
sounds like
he's gonna
Michael
have
when he
to
just
lip
wakes up."
sync. He's
Oh,
gonna have to
please do
lip sync.
because yeah,
But it's gonna be hard. Yeah, because Michael had a rather high voice. He was a male soprano.
Jafar has a very high voice. He has a very soft voice like Michael. You would think
Yeah,
it
that's
was
from their
Michael, but it's
family, ain't
not.
it?
It's not as good. It's one of those things where it's just not as good.
But
Oh,
I
let's
can
go
I can
back.
see Neil Long. I can see Neil Long. Okay, but look,
Yeah,
she kind of giving
that's
strong
Nia. Yeah.
face though. She kind of giving strong face though here.
Well, this is her off. She's not in the movie right now. She holding her cell phone, and I guess like she's supposed to be in the 1980s. So this is just Nia Long, checking her emails right now. But like this is what she would look like dressed up as Catherine.
But you know what? If Angela Bassett, who's an alto like me, more deeply, she was able to capture. But then again, that was kind of like it was more Angela Bassett playing.
Basically, it was Angela Bassett
Yeah, yeah, kind of
playing
like
Angela Bassett.
right, right. She was kind of the same character in Malcolm X. Now that I think about it, yeah, she was kind of the same mother in Malcolm X. Now,
Now, I
Joe
wasn't sure about
Jackson,
Coleman Domingo. I
yeah,
wasn't
I don't
sure.
know there now. I don't know.
But he kind of looks like Joe down there. I was like, especially in the eyebrows, he's definitely
Yeah,
giving
I'm
stern
picking
Joe
up the
Jackson.
eyebrows because you gotta have them eyebrows. Now that's kind of something in my family. You can't. My eyebrows have thinned out over time, but that's kind of something. Yeah, you gotta have them ice cube like eyebrows. Okay.
And one thing about Coleman Domingo, I like him as an actor. He can be that kind of icy individual. He can be
Okay.
pretty rough to deal with, and I can see him isolating that part of Joe Jackson. But I hope he's not just going to make Joe Jackson this terrorist because
Yeah.
clearly
Yeah.
to be very frank, I have a friend who is in the Jackson family. When Joe Jackson left this world in Las Vegas, he was surrounded by his kids, grandkids. They loved him. So,
Yeah.
whether we didn't really agree with his child rearing, they loved him. So I
So,
hope it's
so,
not one of those situations where they just show him as some type of terrorist.
so you think they're gonna do him like Lawrence Fishburne, Ike Turner?
I don't think so because the family's involved, and I don't think they'd let them slander his father, their father like that. But I do think that Coleman Domingo is going to take a more icy. He can be mean. Coleman Domingo can be mean in a role. Um, he's a great actor. I think he doesn't look like Joe, but I think he can capture his essence.
But like with Lawrence Fishburne and What's Love Got to Do with It, it's kind of like Faye Dunaway with Mommy Dearest, a lot of people felt that she was kind of a little more of a caricature. I'm not saying that Lawrence Fishburne was necessarily a caricature, but when you learn more and more about Ike Turner and listen to interviews and stuff, then you see that, yeah, there's Lawrence Fishburne's character portrayal of Ike Turner, and then there's Ike Turner. Yeah, a lot of us, we only know Ike Turner through Lawrence Fishburne's portrayal. But when you look at interviews and stuff,
The
yeah,
interviews didn't help though. Like the interviews
it's
didn't help.
drastically
I was
different.
watching this one interview with Ike Turner where he was like, "Well, one time Anna was just sitting there looking all sad. I said, Anna, what you so sad for?" She said, "Oh, nothing." And I said, "Well, damn it!" I slapped her. I said, "What you looking so sad for?" Because you slapped her, Ike. That's
Yeah,
why she looks so
yeah.
sad.
I had
So yeah,
something on
Ike
that.
was not.
Yeah,
I understand that they exaggerated,
I'm not
but
trying to
Ike was
play
something else.
down. Yeah, I'm not trying to play down, the bad things he did. But I'm just saying when consider all I've read on Ike Turner and other interviews that I've watched, he wasn't quite what we saw with Lawrence Fishburne. Like for instance with the Nutbush scene, if you know what I'm saying. You gotta sing
Yeah.
this motherfucker.
Yes.
I
I
mean,
know the
forgive me for chuckling now.
And
Yeah,
then
so
unfortunately, the way that they did, not only so much the movie, but just the way that like Saturday Night Live and more so Mad TV, you
oh
know,
yeah.
they satirized that scene. It made it funnier when really this is supposed to be a horrible story of a woman surviving domestic violence.
Oh yeah, that's why if you remember, that's why I had to like also talk about that because even myself, I admit to myself, me and my friends, we used to watch the scene, eat the cake, Etta May, and well, we were also laughing too, like at the scene where she ended up fighting back, in the car. My friend would rewind that over and over, but I had to think about that, the things that we laugh at, and I'm talking about, our people, black people, the things that only we would make a joke or make into something, funny. You know. But yeah,
Facts.
looking at this here, I don't
I
know
feel
about
like young Michael's facial features match enough. If we're just looking at facial features, eyes, nose, lips, teeth, and stuff like that, it matches enough. The same goes for Jafar and his uncle. They have a similar
uh,
body structure too. And I,
I'm
I
not
don't think
feeling
Jafar
it.
needs to know how to
Yeah.
act. Hold on one second. I don't think Jafar needs to be a very good actor, because I've been thinking about this a while. Like, he's not talented as an actor as far as I know, but he needs to know how to act like his uncle, which I think he's going to be able to do. We know how to act like our family members. You know how your aunt blah blah acts because she's been around you. You've been in
Yeah.
her home. You grew up
Remember, they
around her.
was from the hood in Gary. Remember, like, see, I'm looking. Okay, and
Mm,
they all okay. They were all the Jackson clan. They were all sunny California, and but see the kid. I'm looking at the kid here. At the bottom left, I'm looking at the kid because okay, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, like Michael Jackson for one, he has like a nose like kind of he had a nose kind of similar to mine, right? And I do believe that played a part. That his features affected how he saw himself. I don't know. I just think that they should find someone with features more, just a little more similar.
hey, they
At
said
least
they're
as
just
a
gonna
child,
paint him
I'm
dark
okay.
skin.
I'm okay with him being older, but at least as a child, you know what I'm saying? Because when I think of how I learned, when I learned about Michael Jackson being taunted, let's say for his nose, and his brothers saying things like, "Oh, Michael can't play ball with us; his nose gonna get in the way," and yeah, I don't know. I just think as a child, like
Oh, they was cooking him.
oh yeah, you ain't know about that?
I
Yeah,
know they used to cook him like that, but at the end of the day, sometimes I feel as though Michael Jackson needed a really good therapist because he needed to process some. Because some of this stuff,
no.
if he's just talking about somebody cracking on his nose, like, come on now, I know that there was different kinds of abuse, but his siblings, I don't feel like his siblings were that hard on him based off of what was shared.
But he wasn't in, when I think of Janet Jackson saying how Michael would refer to her as dunk, talking about her a big booty, a donkey booty. You know how black folks, how siblings, how we gonna do well, the siblings, period. But you know how I know coming from a family with especially me having a lot of brothers, they are going to remind you of every little flaw. It's all supposedly in love, but you gotta understand with him, unlike the rest of us, he was, he was always under the spotlight. And what he said, I recall in an interview, was it with Oprah, or he said it was when a female, okay, when he got a little older, and he was going through the acne problems and everything. And it was a woman, I guess where it really began with him feeling self-conscious. She had saw him a little older, like as a teenager. And he said she had said is that little Michael? And like she had a kind of ill response, like what happened to him? And Michael Jackson said that it was from there. Because yeah, I mean, like you and I, we could, but his life was very extraordinary. It was very, and it just shows how one little comment, one little, can set a person off. And I think that was like where his insecurities. Well, then he also spoke on how his father, Joe Jackson, would call him ugly and say that, oh, you must have got that from your mama's side, like basically Joe
So
Jackson.
almost
Yeah,
like the Karen Carpenter syndrome, where like someone says something
right.
really bad to you and you kind of internalize it. And I get it. Being a celebrity is a very difficult thing. People are looking at you all the time. Outside of just, I do believe that colorism, it was an issue within this family. I can look at not only just how Michael turned out, but just look at who all the kids married. It was almost like they were trying to separate themselves racially speaking, from where they came from. Like, people may
And
not
why
want to
would Joe
believe that
Jackson
or accept
say?
that, but
Yeah, now this is what Michael Jackson, his own words, and Joe Jackson didn't deny this. Michael Jackson said Joe Jackson said, was calling them ugly and saying you must have got that from your mama's side, like saying my side of the family is more attractive, basically.
or maybe on his side of the family they have more keen features. Apparently, Michael Jackson's father's side has a little bit of admixture there. Somebody did a family tree where they showed it, and a lot of times, especially when the element of colorism is within the family, you may have one parent say, well, my side of the family looks like this, or we come from that, versus your side of the family who's, they're dark skin, or they're country, or they don't come from a good stock. I could see that being an element in the household. You can tell by just the way those kids all got serious cosmetic surgery. All of them,
Yeah,
male and female.
yeah, yeah. And if you look at the generations down, but what's interesting, I would think that looking at Catherine Jackson, I would assume it's kind of like with my parents. I would assume that his broader features, like came more from Joe's side. Because Catherine Jackson, her features kind of, she kind of looked similar to my mama. Where on my mama's side, they're darker, but the features are keener. Whereas
Just
they,
imagine being in a
yeah,
household and having to deal with all that, and also the backdrop. You got the civil rights movement going on. You got to deal with racism, in the industry that you work in, because even though they were smiling and dancing on stage, racism still existed. I remember reading this book
oh
about
yeah,
Michael Jackson. Because he was a Jehovah's Witness, as we all know, and he was a for real Jehovah's
oh
Witness, but they
yeah,
would
that's
still,
another element that
yeah,
I gotta speak on.
so he would still do pioneering, which is going door to door, talking about God, and trying to convince people to become interested in the Jehovah's Witness faith. And he experienced a lot of racism because he would do a lot of pioneering in his neighborhood, and his neighborhood was a rich white neighborhood, and it was not a very friendly experience that he had. So I feel as though when you are in a household where features are always pointed out, specifically features that associate you with your blackness, and you got a parent who's pointing at the other parent and blaming all your ugliness on that parent, it creates a dynamic. And it's one of those things where if you don't start working on your own healing, it's going to just spill over in different places. And I think that's what happened with Michael Jackson.
Yeah, and we gotta understand he's been in, I believe, as young as 5 years old. He's been performing. And imagine you were a child and you were used to people screaming over you and all of that and adoring you, or at least the public, even people outside of your family. Now, let's I don't know exactly how severe they were taunting him. Maybe he was some things, perhaps he was exaggerating but I never heard the family necessarily deny that. But yeah, so you're being adored by the public. You're being adored by, and then all of a sudden you're a little older, you're dealing with acne, and someone like that woman, someone who's not in your family, saying something like, "Ew, that's Michael." Ew, you know. Um, yeah, I mean,
Especially when you haven't developed that confidence or that protection
right.
for yourself, because you live in a household where you're always being your ego, your confidence is always being attacked. What I love today is celebrities today, like if you say something crazy to them on social media, they may clap back at you, especially somebody like a Rihanna. I remember this white woman left, I think it was on Twitter, maybe she wasn't white, I do believe she was non-black. She left on Rihanna's Twitter. She was like, why are you always so ashy? And Rihanna responded, because I'm black, bitch. Like, she had that confidence. You're not going to just try to check me on why
Wow.
I'm ash. But Michael, on the other hand, probably would have been like, oh, I don't know, let me go grab some lotion.
Ooh.
Like, some
And can
people
you
are
imagine
just,
if we had the
they,
internet back then? Oh goodness.
oh man, like, I don't know. I don't know if it'd be a better thing or a worse thing, to be quite honest with you. I do appreciate that my generation is the generation of receipts, but I don't know. It may have been much worse if that type of focus was on, Michael, and then you had social media also in the background.
Mm. But that's why I try not to, like I've been on panels and stuff, and people, panels with those who, who you would perceive as, who are considered pro-black. Okay, and I ain't got, yeah, you can consider me pro-black. I'm cool with that. But I've been on panels with others who are perceived as pro-black, and usually with the Michael Jackson discussion, they ain't trying to hear it. I don't know. With Michael, I will let slide when it comes to. I'm not saying that I approve. I'm not gonna. Now I'm gonna tell you when I start really reacting, where I got where it got my attention more. It wasn't so much the bad album, but yeah, because he wouldn't put out an album, maybe disappear or something, or just lay low for a second. But it was with the Black or White. It was around that time. Now that was like the early 90s, 92. With the Black or
It's
White.
92. No, 91 actually.
Yeah, it had to be late 91. It had to have been. It had to have been. Because I know it was going in. It had to have been. But I remember, now first we had heard the song. I remember them playing it on the radio, on the black radio station in Milwaukee. And they used to have a thing like make it or break it, kiss it or diss it, right? Where we actually had a choice, like if we wanted to hear it continue to be played on the radio station. We ain't got no control like that now. We don't have no say so anymore. But anyways, they had like a make it or break it, kiss it or and they played it for the first time on this radio station, this black radio station in Milwaukee. And everybody was like, man, break that. It was black folks was not, it was that video that saved that song, honestly. And then, I'm not gonna lie. When I saw him, it was when I overlooked with a lot of us overlooked with the bad, eccentric 80s. But you got to remember too, we were still kind of influenced by the conscious era of hip hop, and there was a lot of stuff going on, on the conscious tip, black conscious tip in the early 90s. When the Black or White video, because I ain't gonna lie, me and my mama, I didn't really say much, but what I was thinking, like, who the hell is that? That's when I was like, yeah, because he was looking hella weird. Now I'm kind of used to seeing it, but eventually got used to it. Well, I can't say I'm totally used to it, but it was with the Black or White. And then I remember my mama, she was because pro-black my mama was. She was also mad because he had like Macaulay Culkin doing a little rap instead of the members of ABC, the little black boys from the group ABC. So my mama, she was like, now why you had to have a little white boy rap? Why couldn't he have a little black boy rap? So I think that's what black people were kind of, okay, now who is this? But it was still an awesome video with all the little, transitions, the special effects. And I think but really, the original reception of that song, when they played on the radio, everybody was calling in like, man, break that. That is whack. That song is whack. It don't matter if you're. It wasn't so much the lyrics. It was the song.
I think with that specific song, though, and that time period, it was more of a fusion.
And it was
I really can't call
era.
that.
Remember that this was around the time.
I can't really consider that.
Yeah,
I can't really consider that pop. It definitely wasn't rock, and it definitely wasn't like R&B or soul or any of those type of things. It was one of those things where it was a fusion of all of these different things, and Michael Jackson was almost like a fusion if you look at his phenotypes of all of these different things, and it was this big old pot of fusion. And some people are going to enjoy it. There's going to be people who think Black or White is probably one of his best songs, especially when you think of Michael Jackson stepping into this latter part of his career.
It was still a hit. It ended up being a hit on the pop chart still. But honestly, what caused at least black folks to overlook, it did have an awesome and interesting video. Him, all around the world and all the transitions, and because Michael had those really awesome videos. But
and the story behind just that whole situation with Black or White, you're right, it was late in 1991, but what was happening was he was recording. He was recording for months and months, to the point where Sony was like, look, you need to release this album. We just gonna release it. And almost into the last minute, he was still recording music because he didn't know what to do. I think he was really afraid of flopping. There was a good opportunity for him to flop. Bad had done amazing things, but Bad didn't do what Thriller did. And this was the era where people felt like you had to keep topping yourself. You had to keep topping yourself. And by the time that
would have been able to,
yeah, there was
would have been able to. Thriller,
and ultimately he didn't.
Even though most black people will say that we prefer off the wall over Thriller, but still Thriller. I mean, that Michael was everybody had that. Whether people who I knew was into rock music, was into listening to Van Halen and all that. And I knew friends of mine, you know, on the north side of Chicago, white friends, and that they had the Michael Jackson poster with yellow. Everybody, black, white, Asian, everybody. It was like everybody had to have Thriller. Also, it was Michael Jackson. I remember when they used to air on Friday night videos, like in 82, 83. It was Billie Jean that really defined what a music video is. This is when it was finally solidified, the music, the concept of the music video. I'm not saying that we didn't have to, because even before that, you know, you could look at him, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You as music videos. But it was by the time that we had that Billie Jean video, and that's what everybody was tuning in. That's when, and then you had a lot of other artists. Okay, I got to make a music video now. I got to have a music video. Some people feel video killed the radio star, like the song said by the Buggles, but that's when everybody was like, okay, we got to make a music video now. You know, it was almost like it was.
Speaking of videos, yeah. I wanted to show this one video, and I wanted to get like a live reaction. I know I've showed this to you before, but you mentioned earlier, you know, it's one thing to see photos. Let's see what things look like in motion. And some of you guys may have already checked out this video of Jafar. This looks like some type of rehearsal for the movie. So let's check it out.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. You know, especially when he did the little head swing. I'm feeling it. Are you there, Azure?
Oh, I'm here. Sorry about that. I was on mute. But okay. I think a big thing that's going to stick out is his voice. The way his speaking voice is very similar to his uncle's. So it'll be a situation where people will be able to, they'll be able to believe him in this role. The question is, will the script be provocative and interesting and engaging? I think it will be. The question is, what will they omit? I hope they omit certain things that are just not necessary. Like, for example, I know they're gonna have to tell the story of the Chandlers and the Arvizo, but the whole Wade situation, Wade he doesn't deserve any more clout at all. So I don't really think his story needs to be you know, expanded on. I don't want this to be the story of Michael Jackson and his accusers. I mean, most of these people, like Michael, did way too much in his career for these people to get this much attention.
Careful too, because you know, they can find any little reason to sue for, you know, or to, you know, for damages, emotional stress that the film caused, and you know,
all the more reason to omit them.
Right.
I have another video I want to show you guys. This is from ET, and they have more photographs from on set, and I think these are a little bit better.
I never saw ET. I never really saw all of ET. I never saw it.
E.T.? No, E.T. Entertainment Tonight.
oh, okay. Yeah, because I do know that Michael Jackson was involved. I remember the Ebony magazine with him and E.T. and 83. Yeah, believe it or not, okay, you're saying Entertainment Tonight. Oh, okay.
I never saw it either. Don't have much interest in you know, friendly aliens. But hold on one second. I'm gonna show this video.
Okay.
Jafar Jackson and Nia Long on the set of their Michael Jackson biopic. You've been hit by a smooth criminal. This just days after our first look at his transformation into the king of pop. So beat it, just beat it. In new photos, Jafar donning trademark MJ attire behind the scenes. White dress shirt, black tie, black pants.
They look like they about to go do some straight up Jehovah's Witness stuff right now. Like they about to knock on somebody's door right now.
You ain't lying.
With some what's those Awake magazines? Just ready.
Watchtower, Awake. Yes. I used to participate in field service with my auntie and uncle and cousins and grandma on my mom's side.
It don't matter if you're black or white.
And let's not forget Michael's signature curly hair. The son of Jermaine Jackson, now a spitting image of his Uncle Mike.
We think of him every day, and there's not an hour that goes by he doesn't.
I'm sick of Jermaine and that shoe polish hair. I don't know what he's gonna do with that, but
You know what? I didn't know. Watching the one thing you shared with me, I didn't know that Michael tattooed a hairline. I didn't know that. I didn't know
come
that.
across our mind.
sorry, yeah. Apparently, there were not only Michael did that, but Jermaine did that. There's a lot of
Yeah. So now I'm
people are
looking at
tattooing.
Jermaine. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Because of just the music and just the memories.
Alongside Jafar, Nia in costume as the family matriarch, Katherine Jackson. So far, no details on the 1980s era scene being filmed, but the scenes were snapped outside Los Angeles in Encino, where Michael lived for years on and off at the Jackson family compound.
At home, Michael is just like any of the other children when we're together. He stay away from the public mostly because I think the media have made it so that he doesn't like to be out.
Katherine sharing her approval of her grandson's casting last year, saying, "Jafar embodies my son." Meanwhile, Nia's speechless and grateful to play Michael's mother.
There's nothing that's impossible for the Jacksons. Everything is possible.
As for Joe Jackson, Coleman Domingo will play the patriarch, fresh off his Rustin Oscar nod.
The time has come for us to do the same.
He calls the role of Michael's father rich, complex, and flawed.
See, the flawed part is what I'm curious to see.
Yeah, that caught me as well.
Yeah,
Well,
I feel
maybe
as though
they're saying not perfect, but still rich and complex. Maybe that's what they're meaning by that.
and you know what, people are flawed. We're all flawed on some level,
Right.
but I'm curious to see how he's gonna expand on that.
I feel like when it comes to a win for an actor, I have won just by existing in this space and being able to do this work. Because it feels like legacy work. It's the work that we hope to do as actors.
As for Janet, LaToya, and other members of the famous fam, those casting details still TBD.
Mm.
Pause. So who do you think we should hire for Janet?
Ooh. I can't say I know a lot of these artists today because I am still thinking younger. I'm still thinking of Janet Jackson.
Really?
Yeah, I'm thinking how I remember her in the 80s and 90s. So, so then I'd have to think of a more current artist. And I don't know these celebrities today.
You know who I would select? I'm
Who?
going to show you. I'm just going to show you. Share my screen because I think she would be excellent. Halle Bailey. I think Halle Bailey would be a great young Janet, especially. Yes.
Yes, definitely. Got the distant eyes. That's kind of a thing in my family too. Got the distant eyes. Yes.
And very soft
That's also
spoken.
West
She's very
African.
soft spoken.
That's a very West African trait, by the way. But yes,
Oh, really?
yes, oh yeah. Oh no, don't get me wrong. You do have Caucasian Europeans such as Kate Moss, but that's definitely that's why I've been having to defend a young sister. People thinking her features are so odd. Yeah, I can see it. Definitely.
I think she'd be perfect.
I hope they hear you. I hope that somebody picks that up. Kids, yeah, I think so too.
Okay, so we got for the dream casting, we got Halle Bailey. What about LaToya?
LaToya, oh my gosh.
Now LaToya's slightly older, so we can pick somebody a little bit,
Yeah, and it could be someone who is, like mixed. Let me see. I don't know, but and me trying to think of a sister or someone, but I don't.
I don't know these young actors like that no more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Who would it be? Who is out? Who are the actresses or singers? What's going on in R&B? I don't even really know all that's going on in R&B.
But I know who I want for Lisa Marie. Kristen Stewart. I think Kristen Stewart, she was in Twilight. She has a very similar, like, especially in this picture, I think she looks very much like
and
like Lisa Marie Presley, especially Lisa Marie Presley around 1995.
yeah, she had that kind of almost like the face of a punk rocker kind of. Okay.
1995.
Thing is,
Probably
I'm
should have.
so out of touch with the current celebrities of the younger generations, like the younger millennials, and I'm really out of touch. Oh yeah,
I'm
I hope
curious to
they
see
can.
what they're gonna do
I
with this.
really hope y'all got to spread the word on Holly Bailey is Miss Janet. I really
You
hope
know,
they pick up on that.
it's interesting. They've kept a lot of things under wraps with this movie, and they've released a lot of things. So I think it's actually going to be really good. It really boils down to, are the performances going to be good? And when I say the performances, I don't mean the musical set pieces. I know those are going to be good. It's enough Black people involved in this for me to know the musical set pieces, the clothes, that the visuals are going to be good. My question is, are the actors, are they going to be good? Now, I know Coleman's going to be good. I know Nia Long's going to be good. I don't know about this son. I don't know about this little grandson. I don't know if Jafar is going to be good. He may be not so great. That's why he's going to need a strong cast to kind of make him not look so bad. And I think the fact that Michael Jackson was so socially awkward, even if Jafar isn't a good actor, it'll be okay because we expect him to be socially awkward like Michael. So if he has a strong enough cast around him, this may actually be a really good movie.
Yeah, you know what? I trust it. If Mama Jackson and the family, as long as they are heavily involved and behind it and supportive and just listening to what they claim that Mama Jackson, Catherine Jackson, said in regards to Jafar playing her son, and the way that I would love to hear from her. I know she's up in age, but I haven't heard from Catherine. Just heard directly from her in a minute.
I hope Catherine is around to see this movie. I know Catherine, as you mentioned, she is getting up there, but
they got kids in the 70s now. Latoya, she should be in her 70s now. Wow, do you know, I remember when Michael and them was in their 20s. Oh gosh, when I was a kid.
I have not saw the Bob Marley film. So Coco Howell wanted to know, have either one of us
No,
saw
I
the
haven't
Bob Marley
seen it
film?
yet. I
No.
am kind of interested, but I'm hearing some big time criticism though.
I don't like when they have movies about people, like they could get a Jamaican actor to play him. That there are Jamaicans of lighter skin.
A Jamaican is not playing him?
To my understanding, the actor is not Jamaican.
Wow. Okay, all right.
I don't get why they couldn't, and I feel as though like that's so important to his identity, where it's like you can't just skip on that.
Yeah, and he had a strong Rasta accent. He was very, very.
Oh, I think
Oh wait,
Catherine
Latoya's
Jackson got to be 80 something. She got to be in her 80s at this point.
Latoya, okay, she's 67. I thought she had already. I know that Jackie. I know that the oldest. No, Rebe was the oldest, right?
How old is Catherine in her 90s then?
Okay, now Rebe. Oh my gosh, she's 73. Wow, that is something. They are all baby boomers.
Yeah, Catherine is 93 years old. She's 93.
Gosh,
She's
Rebe
up
was
there.
just like 3 years younger than my mama. That is crazy. I'm seeing Rebe Jackson as like could be
93.
my mother's daughter, but come to find out, Rebe Jackson around the same age as my mother, just like 3 years younger. Yes, it says here that Catherine Jackson is 93. She's going to be 94 on May 4th. She was born in 1930.
So she'd be 95 when this movie is released.
Oh wow, yeah.
So let's pray that that she makes it in, because I know she wants to see this movie's completion. And
Yeah,
you know,
but
once
it might
Catherine goes,
be sad because I'm kind of afraid to watch it myself. You know,
I think
'cause-
it's going to be good. And here's the reason why I think it's going to be good, because when Michael was asked about his career right before he died, I want to say maybe a good 6 or 7 months, he said it was the worst of times, it was the best of times. And that's how he looked at it. It wasn't always a sad situation where he was isolated. He was also extremely happy and successful, and he did great things and created great work. I don't want the whole movie to be just glum. I want it to be, yes,
yeah,
there were some bad parts, but then this is more of a story of triumph, where you can go, how far you can go with your talent, and believing in yourself, and loving other people, and just being a good person. I feel like that should be the story.
you
And
know what?
if that's the story,
If dude plays the part too well, that might just, because I'm not gonna lie, that was my childhood. Me being a Gen Xer, those baby boomers, especially those later, mid to late baby boomers, those were the people who entertained us. Michael and Prince, and I do think of those fun years. So that's what I'm afraid of. I trust it. I do trust the project. I trust the project. But I'm afraid that I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of afraid of watching. And I think of Catherine, um, yeah.
well, now we're going to transition to the part of this stream where we're talking a little bit more about some of the things that could be addressed in the movie. And one of those things is the allegations made against Michael Jackson. And I want to talk a little bit more about not so much the allegations, but what was going on when this Leaving Neverland documentary popped up. So this was back in 2019. So think of the backdrop of 2019, politically speaking, socially speaking. This is the height of Me Too. The Surviving R. Kelly documentary had just dropped. The situation with Trump was still in office. There was all of these conversations around, powerful men being held accountable for things that they have done in the past. And then this documentary pops up, Leaving Neverland, which took 2 years for them to create. That's a very long time to do a documentary on a person who's already dead, and you really didn't uncover anything new.
And in
But
10
when the
years after 10 years after his death, that's what's interesting.
and moreover than just the fact that it was 10 years, you had all this time to create a documentary, and they reshot the documentary multiple times.
Yeah, see,
which was another suspicious
what
thing.
I'm looking at is that, he died in 2019 when it was expected the 10-year anniversary.
2009.
I mean, I'm sorry, 2009. It was expected that people would be celebrating his life 10 years after his death. I would not have expected this disrespect, 10 years after his death, when we were supposed to be, like, in a sense, celebrating his life, because now it's been 10 years.
And the fact that there was 3 white men joining forces to take him down via a documentary did look tremendously racist. So when you throw in the element of Oprah Winfrey doing her little interview with Wade Robson, one of the accusers, and James Safechuck, the other accuser, and of course the director of the documentary, his name is Dan Reed. It looks a little less racist because you got a black woman there in the space, and she's legitimizing it and making it seem like, no, this is just a discussion about, sexual abuse and holding people accountable.
Yeah, they need a mouthpiece. That's when I totally dropped Oprah, because Oprah, I recall, see, that's what another thing that really also helped her career, where she didn't have to be in the circles with the boxed with the Ricky Lakes and all of that. That's another thing that helped take Oprah beyond just being this really popular talk show host. When she did that interview with Michael Jackson, because you got to understand, before that interview with Michael Jackson, and around the time that series aired, which was a big hit, I remember everybody was watching it in '92, and then there was the Oprah Winfrey interview with Michael Jackson. Nobody had interviewed Michael Jackson like that. Now, there was interviews like him working on the video Thriller and all of that, but this was our first time really, really hearing Michael Jackson really open up about his life, his childhood, and it went along with the series. Do you know how that helped propel Oprah's career? And I'm not saying, if you believe that he did those X. But when I consider how, you know, she so easily believed Wade Robson and James Safechuck, even though she was very supportive of the Jackson family during, even, you know, during the first period of him being accused by the Chandlers. You know, she was still like in support. She would hug Katherine Jackson and everything, and they welcoming her in her home, because really that really helped Oprah, that skyrocket. Next thing you know, you had Prince. Prince, somebody who was very, very seclusive when it came to interviews and stuff. He had did like maybe one before that, like with HBO or something, like in the 80s. That really opened the doors. I mean, that really, with Oprah Winfrey and the celebrity interviews after that whole the interview with Michael Jackson. Yeah. So it was very obvious, and then to consider what she had said, and I had to share this in a video. What did she say? Was it to James Safechuck or Wade? One of them, Wade Robson, where she said, "Oh yeah," and you can see the way she was interviewing them, like she's speaking for them. "Oh, when you're being molested as a child, it feels good." She said something to that
Because
effect.
she's the thing that blew my mind about that whole thing is like, Oprah, you're no fucking expert. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not a mental health professional. You've never had to facilitate any type of family session. You don't know what you're talking about. You are a woman who did talk shows, and you are a celebrity sycophant. That's what you are. You are not qualified to have this conversation. And what you notice is real professionals won't get involved in this because there are certain rules and ethics that we have to abide by. We can speculate, but we can't talk about people like we know them or we've treated them. And that was what Oprah was doing. She was pretending like she was an expert, that she
Yeah,
just
and it
knows
makes you
about
wonder. You
abuse.
know, you remember what I talked about with Paul Mooney's claims with Oprah and her, but I try
Claims
not
about
to.
Oprah. Well,
You
Paul
know,
Mooney said that she was a Jemima with a degree. So that's what Paul Mooney said. Are you referring to that statement?
no. I had just spoke on it recently. I kind of don't want to go there. Okay, because, or maybe I just said it in the comments.
Go there. Go there,
Okay,
please.
Paul Mooney claimed. Now I love, you know, he's my favorite comedian now. I did kind of feel that maybe he went a little too far with this. He claimed that Oprah Winfrey's family stated that what she claimed about herself being abused never really happened. Like, and to Paul Mooney talked as if he believed that Oprah may have been lying about that. I said that, you know, even though I love Paul Mooney, I love, rest in peace. I did feel that maybe, you know, Paul Mooney shouldn't really go there because that's something he can't really, you know, because that's very, very sensitive. But in consideration of what she said, you know, with that interview with, who was it? Was it James Safechuck she was talking to? Oh, when you're,
Yeah.
and she was like speaking for them. Now, I can't imagine somebody who is a survivor of molestation. She said, when you're a child and you get, you can find the exact audio, but she said
Yeah.
something to the effect, when you're a child and you're being touched, you're being molested, it feels good. She literally said that. I played the audio. I know you know what I'm talking about. So it does
I know
kind of make
exactly
you
what you're
wonder.
talking about. And the
Yeah, it
thing
kind of
that
make you
blows my
wonder.
mind is, as a person who's actually had to do assessments on people, you know, if you're talking about the act of being sexually assaulted as a child, most people find that horrifying. They don't feel like it
Right.
feels good. It makes them feel dirty. It makes them uncomfortable sometimes with the
Confused.
opposite sex or the same sex. It makes them feel uncomfortable in their own skin. People are in counseling for decades because of such things. Sometimes they never get over it. So when you hear a person who's completely unqualified speak on such a thing and say something that is completely untrue, and there's nobody, no real professional on that stage saying, wait a minute, that's not exactly how it goes down, leads me to believe that the whole purpose of that was to make the Leaving Neverland situation seem less racist. She was playing Mammy, and I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm over this woman. I'm over
Yeah,
her playing Mammy.
that's when she was canceled. She was canceled. And see, the thing is, okay, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. But I watched her support the family, show support, not just doing interviews as an interviewer would do, you know, staying unbiased. She stayed supportive of the family. I'm not saying that she necessarily, you know, said that anyone was lying, but she was very supportive of the Jackson family. embracing Katherine Jackson, even going into the 2000s with the Gavin Arvizo. And you remember with Paris Jackson and
well,
yeah.
even with that, she was a little inconsistent during that time period, because at that point, Oprah had amassed a lot of power by the early 2000s. By 2001, 2002, Oprah was already known or believed to be a billionaire. She rivaled Michael Jackson's influence to some level, because bear in mind, in 2002, 2003, Michael Jackson wasn't really the king of, the hill anymore. He was in many ways a diminishing celebrity. So Oprah would take little shots. There are some clips that I could pull from my archive where she made little shots, but at the end of the day, even when he was acquitted, she still kind of gave the impression, well, you never know, and sometimes the courts aren't really always on top of things. So Oprah gave the impression that she really didn't believe that Michael was innocent. And there is a scenario where Michael is not innocent, and I'll share that scenario after we provide the receipts first, because there is
Coco Hall was saying, yeah, that was a big deal. That is what caused Oprah. She that put her over the Donahues, the Geraldos. And you got to understand, like Donahue, he had been doing talk shows since the 70s, but Michael choosing Oprah to open up to, because understand, we had not heard from, you know what I'm saying? We had not heard of Michael Jackson and Prince. They were they were somewhat seclusive. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't know anything really into their family like that, or into his, his childhood and all of that, besides what they showed in their performances. So that
Prince had the luxury of people not really knowing his family, where Michael Jackson had an entertainment family where they were already,
but we didn't know.
You knew every member.
Yeah, he never really opened up and talked like that in interviews. So that was something everybody watched. That put her beyond just, she was no longer just Oprah Winfrey, the talk show host after that, And so then eventually she was able to get an interview with Prince. And so she realized she didn't even have to, because around that time before that, she was doing the show, cheating spouses and all that mess. It was after that she could, I'm not saying that she didn't have celebrity interviews before that, going back to the days of AM Chicago.
But none to that gravity.
Yes,
none to that gravity.
Yes.
Well,
now,
let's talk a little bit about
Wade. Truly believe, then, hey, whether or not, just because somebody helped you become big, if that's what she truly believed, but I don't believe that's what she truly believed.
Well, if I can gain access to the same receipts I got, I'm confident Oprah, with all her money, can gain access to the same kind of receipts. And if Oprah can support people like Epstein and can support people who are known, who we know how they get down, there's no way in hell that you can tell me that Oprah, with all of this information about Michael Jackson that's out there, like one of the things about the people who are detractors of Michael Jackson, they never tell you to look at the receipts. They want you to think about the innuendo. They'll say something to the effect of, well, what could he have been doing with those children? There's a lot of things you can be doing with the children besides molesting them. So they want you to use innuendo and not want you to use Google. They don't want you to look at the transcripts, because when you read the transcripts, you start to realize, oh, this case was crazy as hell. Like one of the things that they said that Michael Jackson was going to do was kidnap their children in a hot air balloon. A hot air balloon.
Right.
That was in the legal transcripts.
Oh my God. All of this information, Azure TV, I would be presenting, because this was one of the first things that got me really caught up in social media back in the days of the message forums, even before YouTube. I would present this if people were just overlooking. Well, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I think the thing with Michael Jackson is, and this is why R. Kelly got way more support in the Black community, Michael Jackson spent the last 20 years of his life looking less and less like a Black person, associating less and less with Black people.
That was the focus.
Hey, that was the focus.
Yeah, that was the focus. No matter what I said, no matter, even with my own family members, nobody was hearing me.
But let's talk a little bit about Wade Robson. Wade Robson was one of the Michael Jackson hanger-ons, and he was featured in the Leaving Neverland documentary. And a little information about Wade Wade used to be one of the most sought after choreographers in the industry in the late 1990s up into the mid to late 2000s. Wade Robson worked from everyone from Britney Spears to NSYNC. She worked with other little pop bands, and they paid him, especially Britney. She didn't just hire him as a choreographer. She hired him as her tour director. That's a I think that was $1 million check that he got doing that. So he was paid handsomely during that time period. He was also really close friends with Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears while they were dating, excuse me. So close that Justin Timberlake wrote a dedication to Wade in one of his albums. So they were real tight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Wade ends up sleeping with Britney Spears, and that kind of ends that relationship. So it just goes to show you, Wade just don't got no boundaries. He's real sloppy with it. Another thing that he did that was super sloppy. When Wade started dating Prince's ex, what was her name? Mayata or Mayati? What's her name? You know what I'm talking
about. Yeah. Prince's,
he brought
ex-wife or first wife.
He literally brought her to Neverland. Like, Michael apparently didn't know what was going on, didn't expect her to be there. You know, wow. Michael and Prince had this weird relationship. So he was concerned that the press would take a picture of it and it'd be all on the tabloids, and it would have been. And he just didn't. He told everybody to get the hell out. Everybody had to leave. And Michael wouldn't see Wade or her because he didn't want to get caught by the paparazzi. It's a possibility that he would have got snapped.
Now, that I didn't know.
Oh, Wade is a messy one. Wade is very, very messy. So the funny thing is, when he came forward to do his his lawsuit against Michael back in 2012, what I've noticed, the media was not supportive. He did an interview with Matt Lauer, and Matt Lauer was talking to him like, so what you basically are telling us is that you're either lying or you're basically saying that you helped a child molester get away with a crime 5-6 years ago. You perjured yourself, and now that this person is dead, you're trying to sue their estate. You're trying to get paid. Like, Matt Lauer had no patience for him. And you can say what you want about Matt Lauer, but he definitely held him to task during that interview. Did you get a chance to check out the interview?
That's funny, because that tells me that the media, and I was definitely in social media at that time, so that tells me that the media didn't really give much attention to that. Because I didn't know about that. I didn't know until with the Leaving Neverland that Wade Robson now had flipped on Michael Jackson. I didn't know until 2019 with the Dan Reed documentary. Wow.
I'm actually going to pull that up. I want you guys to check out just the body language of Matt Lauer, because, and like I said, people don't like Matt Lauer. They try to say he's a bad guy. Only thing Matt Lauer was doing was sleeping with women, and it was very consensual. They wanted to be involved with him also. You can say he cheated on his wife. Sure, he absolutely did. They eventually got a divorce, but he wasn't a predator. At least in my opinion. I don't believe he preyed on anyone.
Oh yeah, there was
during this.
Okay.
There was a big scandal with that. But I don't.
That means that usually they went against the grain.
Yeah, apparently Matt Lauer was tripping though. Matt Lauer had a sex button where he would hit a button on his desk and then the door would lock. Matt Lauer was a wild boy. I admit he was a wild boy. Let's play this little interview.
But this morning we begin this half hour with a new claim from Wade Robson, Michael Jackson's former protege and longtime defender, a claim that the pop star molested him for years. We're going to talk to Wade in a moment exclusively, but first, his story. For years, dancer and famed choreographer Wade Robson spoke of his one-time friend and mentor, Michael Jackson, with only admiration.
Just had a wonderful relationship. I learned so much from him as an artist and as a kind human being.
In fact, in 2005, when Jackson was acquitted of the only molestation charge he ever faced in court, Robson was a star defense witness.
He was an adult, he was intelligent, he was articulate, and he was adamant that nothing untoward had ever happened when he was with Michael Jackson.
But now Robson is making a belated claim against Jackson's estate because his lawyer said Jackson was a sexual predator, and Robson last year collapsed under the stress and sexual trauma of what happened to him for 7 years as a child.
In my opinion, this is all about greed and money.
But child abuse experts say that Wade's belated accusation is not uncommon and that sexually abused children often take decades to acknowledge abuse.
Tragically, this is a very, very common story. Study after study after study on childhood sexual abuse has shown that it takes adulthood for many victims to come forward, and that it is very possible that even
Pause. There's some truth to that, but let me expand. It is not uncommon for people who have been victims of child sexual abuse to not come forward into their adults for a variety of reasons. Maybe it was a family member. Maybe the person is dead and you feel no value in bringing it up. But it is not common for a person to hide the secret, then perjure themselves in court to protect the accused, and then after the person is dead, come forward and then they have a story. That is not something that happens.
He was not a child when he testified. He was the first witness to testify on behalf of the defense. He was not a child now. And it wasn't like, okay, now he uses this excuse that he didn't realize that it was abuse. He didn't realize. That's not what he was asked. That's not what Tom Mesro, Michael Jackson's lawyer, asked him. He was asked, did Michael Jackson, he was asked questions, yes or no questions. Did Michael Jackson touch your privates, your penis or whatever? Or, it was a yes or no question, not whether or not you knew or realized, because he used the excuse later, well, he didn't realize that what was happening was him being molested. This was the excuse. He didn't know better. He didn't realize what Michael Jackson was doing was wrong. But as an adult, what he was questioned, what he was asked was not whether or not he saw this as something innocent or molestation or something devious. He was asked, did Michael Jackson do such and such, such and such? Did he touch your penis? Did he do this? Did he do that? He said no. So that's
to answer Coco's question about is Wade Robson still a choreographer? Sorta. So here's the thing: when Wade Robson's mother abandoned her mentally ill husband, who was a cop in Australia, she decided she was going to clout chase Michael Jackson. So she took her two youngest children, because they both were dancers, because Michael Jackson told them in passing, you're not going to get very far in the world of dancing, especially hip hop dancing in Australia, which is no big mystery there. They took that as, that means that I need to move my children to California. So she takes her two small children to California. Michael did not pay for anything. He did not assist them in their arrangements. So that kind of gives you the impression that Michael he ain't invested. This is not his business. He's not trying to make them his problem. But they brought themselves to America and they started to obsess over this man. And I'm going to bring some other receipts regarding Wade's mother, because even after Wade came forward with these allegations, his mother was still in Michael Jackson fan clubs and was liking pictures, and it's just weird clout chasey ass family.
And if I may say on Wade Jackson real quick, now I used to have a respect for him because I remember watching Court TV. That was during the time of the Gavin Arvizo accusations and stuff, and I had a respect for him. But one thing that I remember being disappointed, because it was around the time of the Britney Spears and all these white answers to black entertainers of the 90s. And I remember Nickelodeon, because like you said, he was sought after, in the late 90s, early 2000s. He was a sought after a choreographer. But I remember Nickelodeon. They had this little piece in between the cartoons, like during the commercials, right? And they would use Wade Robson to show you the latest dance moves, right? So I'm seeing Wade Robson, he's teaching us how to do the SpongeBob shuffle. I just have to point this out because I remember this. And I'm like, what? How they taking dances that we created? Like he'd be doing the Cabbage Patch or something, some dance we were doing.
Was he a kid or was he an adult at this point?
No, he was an adult. Yeah. I believe this was like the early 2000s, Yeah, he was like, I'll
bring this up.
I'm gonna show y'all how to do the SpongeBob. Yeah, he was like a young adult, I believe. I'm gonna show y'all how to do the SpongeBob shuffle, and he's showing us how to. So he's doing dances that we doing in the hood, giving it a new name. Well, that's Nickelodeon also.
That was his whole thing. When you look at Wade Robson's choreography,
I respected him, for support of Michael Jackson. I was like, okay, this is kind of a disrespect. Y'all taking our dances that we do in the hood and giving it these new names, and it's Wade Robson is Caucasian dude showing you how to do dances that we created in the hood, giving it his own name, a Nickelodeon
Well, no,
name.
but you got to also bear in mind though. Look at who he was who he's a choreographer for. He was a choreographer for Britney Spears in
Right.
Sync. If you look at the videos, there was a person who did a side-by-side comparison that shows where he got a lot of his inspiration from. A lot of it was from Janet Jackson. Of course, a lot of it was from Michael Jackson. So this is on brand for him. Like for another thing that he stole from a black artist. When Aaliyah died in the plane crash, all of a sudden Britney Spears, now she got a snake on her and she's performing live, and he choreographed that piece. So it's one of those things.
Wow. Really?
Steal from black people with the quickness. Wow,
I remember when I first saw Britney on stage, I said, oh my gosh, she is biting. She is biting off. What was that song? We Need a Resolution. And you know,
which was released only like 2 months before.
Wow.
Released 2 months before.
Yes, I don't know if I don't know if you it's like a 1 minute clip. If hold on. I don't know if I could can I just I kind of found not to hold on, can I just share this really quick?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Now I remember watching this, you know, my daughter watched cartoons. Well, you know, I watch cartoons too, so let me quit fronting. But it was this right here. It was this, and I had respect for him because you know he had, you know, tested, you know, he was wait. Well, I knew him as okay. This was maybe before the trial or around the time of the trial. Yeah, I just remember seeing this, and I'm like, they say 2003, but I thought it was that. Yeah, I'm like, what? Okay. Even though I had a respect for dude, being that he was Michael Jackson and all, I was like, this is kind of disrespectful, you know, because it was enough of this, you know, copying off of us in the early 2000s. So I'm like, okay, these are So you see here. Okay, you shared it. I'm sorry.
Nick groove combination. That's right. Put your dancing shoes on. Learn a bunch of Nick grooves, and now it's time to put them all together.
Very 2000s. Super close camera, all up in people's face.
Nick groove jumbo combo. Let's do it.
Hit it, Shaniqua.
Shaniqua?
Yes, I didn't like that at all. So my daughter young, and I'm watching.
He looks
I'm
corny.
like, what is this? So they taking our dances, giving it different names, and he's teaching us how to do it. The Jimmy Neutron butt. How y'all taking our dances?
And he's not really that great. You know what? Let me stop.
So yeah, I was like, let me see the comments. Anybody thinking what I'm thinking? Okay. Corny Judas. Okay. Yeah, that's all I wanted to share. Oh my god. Yeah, because I just remember that, like, okay, all right, this is now you see why the 2000s I'm not too fond of.
Stiff as a board. Oh my god. Got as much rhythm as a bow-legged snake. It was terrible. But it just goes to show you mediocrity. Like he was known for being a Michael Jackson impersonator, and that's what he did as a kid for a very long time. And then when he transitioned to, like, I don't know, about like 12 or 13, after, you know, clout chasing Michael, he never stopped clout chasing Michael Jackson. He lived off of that for a long time. He started doing like these little TV movies, little small things. He was in this little group. Well, it wasn't. It was a duo. It was him and some black.
It was like that, with MJJ Records. I remember in the 90s.
Oh, do you know he called Michael the N-word in that in the thank you? He said, "Thank you, my nigga, Michael Jackson." I'm like, you know what? Oh, I hate this. I hate this man.
Copy off of Chris Cross. I thought, you know,
they were.
That's what I saw it as, them kind of biting off of Chris Cross.
Man, let's get back to this little interview, because Matt Lauer, he did what he was supposed to do as a journalist, in my opinion.
When kids in their 20s do not understand that a crime was committed against them.
Jackson's estate says Robson's claims are outrageous and have no credibility. Good morning. Good to see you. You know that the things you're going to say here this morning, and perhaps in a court of law, are going to get a lot of attention, make a lot of headlines. So before I ask you specifics, what's your mindset right now?
What's my mindset? I feel strong. I feel like this is the right thing to do because this is my truth.
Despite what some people may say after you say these things?
Yes.
Let me take you back to 2005, Wade, all right? The child molestation trial of Michael Jackson. You were the first witness called by the defense, and the attorney for Michael Jackson said he called you first because you were so convincing and powerful, asserting the innocence of Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And here we are these years later, and you're going to say just the opposite.
Right.
What happened?
First of all, one thing I want to clear up is that this is not a case of repressed memory in any
Which has
way.
been reported in the press some.
I never forgot one moment of what Michael did to me. But
So you helped him lie. You
Right, exactly.
You helped him lie. You helped him lie and get away with molesting a damn
Exactly.
cancer patient. You ain't shit. Like you ain't
Right.
shit. If that's
Right,
true,
and his
you
ass
ain't
needs to
shit.
be- Isn't that considered perjury? Or
It is.
I'm sorry.
He's just comfortable, like he ain't just commit perjury if what he's saying is true. But I just had to
He
add that.
asked
I'm
him
sorry.
clearly, did Michael do this?
psychologically and
Did Michael do that? Not whether or not you realized it was wrong, because you remember, like I said, he used the excuse that he didn't know, that what Michael was doing was wrong, right? But he asked,
Even that's a bunch of bullshit. Like you can make the argument that okay, a child doesn't understand and they can be groomed, yes. But by the time you start getting into puberty, which he claimed that this relationship lasted all the way until he was like 14 years old.
Right.
And to put things into context, when he was 14 years old, he was like 6 feet tall. So if Michael Jackson had been molesting you since you were 8 years old, which means he was attracted to that type of look, he was still doing when you were like 6 feet tall. It doesn't even match what goes along with the pathology of those sexual predators. You can tell he didn't do enough research.
He has been with tons of children going way back. Emmanuel Lewis. Predators, those who molest children, they're not that picky, choosy. You know what I'm saying? He has been around Emmanuel.
Way more victims.
Yeah, it would have been people.
Way more victims
coming out. Thank you.
They will be coming out of the woodwork, number one, because he has settled before, so there's blood in the water.
Right,
number
just like
one.
with the Catholic
Number two.
priest.
Oh, absolutely. And these people are the Robsons.
A whole flood of them coming out.
But the Robsons are clout chasers. I keep bringing up that for a reason. If Wade Robson had this over Michael Jackson's head at any point in his life, he would have been able to extract so much wealth out of Michael. He wouldn't have needed to pretend to be in this relationship with his nieces, trying to get somewhere and get in the family somehow. Like he would need to. He'd be like, nigga, I know you molested me. Where's my money? I know you paid Jordan millions. I want my cut. So he's not a person who isn't Machiavellian. He definitely is. He's a person who knows how to get money out of people when he needs to. So if he had this kind of dirt on Michael, he would have used it. And he never did because it didn't exist. But let's get back to this little interview because, like I said, Matt gonna do his thing.
I never forgot one moment of what Michael did to me. But I was psychologically and emotionally completely unable and unwilling to understand that it was sexual abuse.
So what are you alleging that he actually did?
He sexually abused me from 7 years old until 14.
I know it's a difficult and personal question, but can you be more specific? Because you're accusing someone who is deceased of criminal activity.
Yeah.
So I need you to be a little more specific. Did he perform sexual acts on you? Did he force you to perform sexual acts on him? What was the nature of the abuse?
Yes, exactly what you said. He performed sexual acts on me and forced me to perform sexual acts on him.
How old were you when it started?
7.
And how long did it last?
Till about 14.
Now, when you testified in 2005 and you took the stand and you raised your right hand and you swore under oath that nothing sexual ever happened between you and Michael Jackson, why did you lie?
I said what I understood and I said what I was able to say.
I love when white people do this. I love when they do this. And I love the fact that he's trying to do it on another white person. And like, Matt is like, no, we're not about to play the game of, well, this is all that I could think of and all that I could say emotionally. Like, no, this is not going to work, sir. Like,
and he
go ahead. What were you going to say?
How many times? Oh my gosh, I have to repeat this. He was not. Okay, he's putting it like he didn't know better or he didn't realize it was sexual abuse. It was not a thing of him being. He wasn't asked necessarily, were you sexually abused? He was asked specifically, did Michael Jackson touch you? No? Now he claimed that Michael Jackson touched his penis and he had him touch his penis, all that stuff. He was asked specific yes, no questions. Did Michael Jackson, whether or not he believed back then, even though he was I believe, a legally adult, whether or not he believed it was something right or wrong, whether or not he saw it as sexual abuse or not, he was still asked yes or no questions. Did Michael Jackson touch your penis? He said no. He was, oh my gosh. He was asked specific questions. Did Michael Jackson do this? Did Michael Jackson do that? Things that he is claiming now that Michael Jackson actually did. So he's lying. He's lying. He lied then, and he's lying. He's lying right here. He's lying.
Let's get back into it. I can see this is triggering you.
You know, I said what I understood.
I haven't
and
seen this. I actually
haven't
seen this one here. Okay.
From 7 years old, from day one of the understood, and I said what I was able to say. From 7 years old, from day one of the abuse, Michael told me that we loved each other and that this was love, that this was an expression of our love. And then you follow that up with, but if you ever tell anyone what we're doing, both of our lives and our careers will be over. When I was 11, when the first trial was going.
I'm sorry, pause. So you're going to explain to a 7-year-old their career is going to be over? Is that what you're going to explain to a 7? Our careers are going to be over. A 7-year-old is going to care about a career.
And when he was on trial, he was not a child that needed to be afraid to. And even so, you're a grown-ass. Who cares that your career would be over? You have a responsibility if there are children who you know are being molested. You're an adult now. Otherwise, don't get your ass on the stand. You are an adult. Was he not? He was an adult when he was on the stand.
Oh, yeah, he was like 22, 23, something like that.
Yeah, from what I recall, he was an adult. He had a responsibility. So why did he lie on stand? It doesn't matter whether or not you were in love. You still, if what he's claiming here is true, then that means that his ass need to be he need to be charged with perjury. And he
lying. he lying.
Oh goodness! Let me turn off.
The funny thing is, he said his career. Your career is going to, like, you can't explain to a 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You honestly, the concept of a career really doesn't get into your head till you like 16, 17, when people are like, okay, what you going to go to college for? Like, you really going to expect me to believe that some 6-year-old, 7-year-old, any form of a kid is worried about their career? If it would make more sense if he would have said Michael would say he wouldn't see him anymore, he wouldn't be friends with him anymore, or he wouldn't hang out with him. Now I could believe that because he's a kid and he likes being around Michael Jackson. He's a big fan. I could see that being a manipulation tool. That's what would make more sense. Not telling somebody that their careers would be over. What? Let's get back to that.
Oh, and if I may say, because I'm seeing what y'all had the comment you're highlighting, I'm so sorry I didn't greet everyone in the chat room. I'm kind of, being that I got these contacts in, it's kind of hard for me to see the details of the comments. How y'all doing, everyone? I'm seeing the comment as such, so she might have left. But how y'all doing?
Yeah,
by the way?
That's Shelly. You know what, Shelly? I did not know you were an MJ fan like that. If you one of these days, definitely. Like, this is a story that's probably going to take a couple of more streams, and we barely got into what we're going to get into. So absolutely, I'm going to hit you up on the back end, see if we can get something scheduled for a part 3, especially since Lashid will be going on an extended hiatus. But every time Lashid goes on a hiatus, she comes back, then lost some weight, feeling good. So it may be exactly what she needs. And I encourage other people to take a hiatus.
Definitely.
Take a siesta to get your mind right.
I just learned today. Why did I learn this? I just learned that Wade Robson is going to be on February 28th. I just learned because remember I told you I was not as up on, you know, the more current, you know, but I learned that Wade Robson was is going to trial. Is, you know, have a trial
Yes.
set starting on February 28th. I just learned that today. So I'm like, oh gosh, how, you know what? So y'all don't let me know any details. I will by the summer. I'll find out how it all turns out by the summer, because I'm afraid I'm gonna
Right
get
on.
I'm afraid I'm gonna get caught up again.
Well, you know what? The whole situation with his trial, it's been thrown out a few times, and it'll probably get thrown out again. But we'll get back to this interview because there's some.
Okay.
We're not even halfway through that interview, but hold on.
Going on the criminal investigation in '93. He would call me every day and role play and tell me the same sort of things, and also tell me then that if anyone ever thought that we did these things, any of these sexual things, that both of us would go to jail for the rest of our lives.
When you testified in 2005, did Michael Jackson or anyone working for him offer you money to say the things you said? Did they tell you you must lie on the stand at that time?
No, there was no money. There was no you must lie. Michael, when he would talk to me before these things were going on, and he would call me every day as these things were happening, it was complete manipulation and brainwashing. It wasn't any sense of the truth on the phone. He would role play with me and train me for these scenarios.
You know, you say it's not repressed memory. You say you always knew and had in your mind what happened between you and Michael Jackson. You also say that when you finally had a son of your own, that it was looking at that son that made you think, if anyone ever did to your son what Michael Jackson did to and with you, you'd kill that person.
Yeah, I'm a father, and I became a father 2.5 years ago to this beautiful baby boy. And during the first 18 months of his life, I collapsed into 2 nervous breakdowns, terrifying nervous breakdowns. At that point, I had no idea what was wrong with me, what was going on. During the second one, this thing happened where I started looking at him and imagining him being a victim of the sexual abuse that I was at the hands of Michael.
Michael was hella dead by this point, so I'm not saying that like that he's not a victim and this could have never happened, even though I don't believe he was. But Michael was hella dead at this point. He was no longer a threat to you or your son. He never met your son. So this is a stretch. This is Wade trying to connect some dots and trying to get sympathy. But I just want to throw that little anecdote in before I move on to the next part of this video.
And for the first time in my life, I began to realize that my completely numb and unexplored feelings in relationship to what Michael did to me might be a problem, and maybe I needed to speak to someone about it.
Howard Weitzman, who's a lawyer for the Jackson estate, said this in a statement. Mr. Robson has adamantly denied under oath and in numerous interviews over the past 20 years that Michael Jackson ever did anything inappropriate to him. Now he wants us to believe that he committed perjury at least twice and has been lying to anyone and everyone about Mr. Jackson since the early 1990s, so he can file a claim for money. Mr. Robson's transparent lawsuit comes nearly 4 years after Michael passed. His claim is outrageous and sad. Jermaine Jackson, Michael's brother, said Wade Robson is full of, and then used an expletive. What's your response?
The smile while he was hearing this, oh, it reeks of narcissism. Most people would be horrified to hear this. People would not feel comfortable. And if I did not know Wade from different places and like outside of this whole Michael Jackson thing, if I've not seen other interviews with him, I wouldn't be able to recognize that smile. That's the same smile he puts on anytime you talk about, oh, you're doing this project or you're doing this. I've seen him do that exact same expression, and that's pride. He likes the attention that he's getting from this, even though it's the worst kind of attention ever.
Yeah, hit it, Shaniqua.
I'm either Shaniqua in this scenario, but let's resume this video.
I understand completely how hard it is to understand this. That being said, the idea that I would make all of this up and put myself, my wife, my son, my entire family through this, extremely stressful and painful experience, all for the sake of money, is completely
But that's what you're going to be accused of. You're going to be accused. You're going to say you defended Michael Jackson while he was alive because he was good for your career. And now that he's gone, there's an opportunity here to sue his estate. He can't defend himself. and get money. Why didn't you go to the lawyers and do this quietly and try to settle some, make some kind of a deal?
Right.
Because he did. So this is what Wade tried to do. He tried to write a book, and he threatened to release the book, basically saying that, you know, he was molested, so on and so forth. And the state said, oh, okay, do whatever you want to do. No one's going to care. So when he realized that wasn't going to work, that's when he started to say, okay, I can imply or I can sue that somehow that Michael Jackson's companies played a role in trafficking me in these situations. So now these companies that are still in existence, I can sue them as opposed to trying to sue a dead Michael Jackson, because you can't sue a dead person, but you can sue their companies if they still exist and whatever business or their estate. So that's exactly what Wade did. The problem, though, is the fact that he had a book. That means he has drafts, and people have been able to subpoena those drafts. And what he wrote down has contradicted what he said in court. And that is going to really, it's going to be the end of the road for him. With this last trial, I think this is it, because it's like there's too many contradictions. It's not adding up. And people can lie on the internet. You can lie in these interviews. You can lie in your documentary. But when you sit in front of that judge, it hits different. It's
this is reminding me with Janice Dickinson and Bill Cosby. You know, because I remember reading her memoirs and what she said about what happened in her encounter with Bill Cosby, very different than, you know, and also when she was on Howard Stern talking about her book before the accusations in, what was that, 2013 or 2015 against Bill Cosby. I remember Janice Dickinson's books, memoirs, and what she wrote on him, totally different. And she was bold enough to admit that she lied in the book. Well, no, just saying that she lied, period. And yet they still considered her testimony. That's what I don't understand. This is what it's reminding me of. Oh yeah, by the way, I wasn't calling you Shaniqua. I was just thinking of how fake he sounded in the Nickelodeon.
No, I figured as much.
Yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind. That's the Nickelodeon skit. Hit it, Shaniqua.
Lived in silence and denial for 22 years. And I can't spend another moment in that. In order to truly heal, I have to speak my truth, and I have to speak the whole truth. That's one thing that you'll never see from me. I'm never going to go away with this for the sake of money. I'm never going to be silenced for money. That's not going to happen.
With all that you've been through, the work you did with Michael Jackson and what you now allege was sexual abuse by Michael Jackson. When I say his name to you this morning, what do you think of?
Heartbreak, pain, anger, and compassion. There's there's no excuse for what he did to me, and I believe many others. But he was a troubled man, and every effect has its cause. You know, the image that one presents to the world is not the whole explanation of who someone is. You know, Michael Jackson was, yes, an incredibly talented artist and with an incredible gift. He was many things, and he was also a pedophile and a child sexual abuser.
His fans have been contacting me on Twitter this morning in record numbers, Wade.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are saying you're a traitor. You understand their emotions this morning?
I understand how confusing it is to understand, you know, how hard it is to understand. I get that. But all it takes is a little bit of education into child sexual abuse and realizing how, unfortunately, typical my scenario is. The trauma and the psychological effects of child sexual abuse last for so long. You know, I had no understanding of this until up to just over a year ago. And I'm just at the beginning of my healing process. I'm sure I'll be dealing with this for the rest of my life. But I'm so thankful that this is happening now, because now I can get my life back. You know, and my son is the one that saved my life.
Wade Robson. Wade, thanks very much for your time this morning.
Thanks
I appreciate it.
So that was the interview with Wade.
Yeah, I'm a survivor. There is no way. Now, he was over 21 years old, as I believe. There is no way, if I experienced something such as that, I would have gotten on stand knowing that he was not a child, a scared child, confused child. He wasn't even a teenager. He was an adult. He was on stand when he was asked specific questions, yes, no questions. He said no about, the things that he later claimed Michael Jackson did to him, like touching his penis and all of that. When he was asked this specifically, not whether or not it was right or wrong, not whether or not, he said no. There's no way as an adult that he didn't realize that he should be telling the truth. I'm sorry. I'm not going to accept it. I'm not going to accept that.
Well, you know what? And I really thought it was important to show this interview with
As a
Wade because
survivor,
everyone.
See, and it's people like that, me being as a person, a survivor, it's just, I don't know what this lying. I'm sorry.
Well, he needed a check, and I understand that certain people, they're okay with lying. They feel as though that you're lying on someone who's dead, and it doesn't matter, and he's okay with doing that. And he found a kindred spirit in James Safechuck. Now, James Safechuck has a lot of financial stuff going on. Like James Safechuck, his beef with Michael is a little different from Wade's beef. Wade feels like Michael owes him something. And in this next documentary, where they're going to really go into why Wade feels like he's owed, I want you guys to really pay attention to what Brandy Jackson has to say. Brandy Jackson is one of Michael Jackson's nieces. She was also in the black or white video. Wade's in the black or white video. I really feel like they should crop him out. It'd be an easy way to crop him out. You won't even notice him there anymore. Oh yeah, he's in the video. She's in the video, like you in the part right before the little rap sequence where the two kids do like a little high five scenario. That's Wade and that's Brandy. But yeah.
Oh, okay. He was with the kids with the group ABC and Macaulay Culkin them. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yep. Definitely easy to crop out. So I don't know, the Michael Jackson estate, if you're listening, feel free to let him be forgotten by time, because once this lawsuit is over, it's over. There's no more, there's nothing further he can do at this point. But this is a really good documentary. And of course, all of the docs that I'm going to use, I'm going to put it, in the video description in case you guys want to check them out on your own without my own. Because, when I speak and when I talk, I am influencing the conversation and influencing you. And if you guys would just want to check out these videos without my influence, I'll definitely provide those links. So hold on one second.
We were together. It happened. There was.
Oops, wrong one. That's not the one. Hold on. Even though that is another one, but that's not the one that I wanted to show just yet. Hold on one second. I'm having some technical difficulties.
Okay. And if I can also share something when I get a chance.
Sure.
Something very
oh, no, share it right. You have, while I'm trying to find this file, feel free to share whatever you feel like you need to. See, my little simple self may not have downloaded it. And I think that's exactly what happened. So I think the documentary is called Neverland Firsthand. I do believe that's the name of the documentary. Oh, nope, that's not it. Andy Jackson interview. See, I'm usually more on point, but things happen, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not realize I was on mute. Oh, I have the video, by the way. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I muted myself.
Find a video.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's just.
So let me add this to the stage.
Okay, I did this video.
So yeah, can you start that over?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the whole thing with Gavin, but just from
okay.
Wade Robson here. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, go ahead. Do you think?
Yeah, I did this 4 years ago.
Jackson is telling the truth about his accusers just wanting money. And Wade Robson actually testified on his behalf. Did Michael Jackson ever touch you inappropriately?
No, not at all. I learned so much from him as an artist and as a kind human being.
That I actually believe is true. Now, we all, as Michael fans, know that Michael never actually did anything. And she even said out of her own mouth back in 1993 that Michael would never do nothing to harm her brother. Now, 10-year-old Wade Robson, he says, nothing happened, just like the other kids said. It's just fun, it's just sleepovers, and it's nothing more. Now, I'm wondering what made him change his story years later, but let's get into some more clips.
Are you still friendly with Michael?
Yeah, we still talk every couple months, catch up.
You do, really?
Yeah.
Well, what's he like?
What's he like? He's a good guy.
Is he a good guy?
Yeah.
Show me where he touched you. Nothing ever like that? No nonsense, no shenanigans?
Meanwhile, CBS obtained a secretly taped phone conversation allegedly between the father of the boy who accused Jackson of sexual abuse and the boy's stepfather. Listen to this.
This man is going to be humiliated.
Okay, I think that.
He will not believe it. He will not believe it.
Yeah, I think that was the part on Wade Robson. I just wanted, so you saw how he responded. Did he sound like somebody who was hiding? You know, now you can see a full-grown man here.
No, he sounded like somebody who is very aware of the reputation of Michael Jackson, and he did not want to be associated with anything remotely, child sexual abuse or anything that could be perceived as homosexual. He wanted nothing to do with that, and he made it very clear that nothing happened to him. He even deflected the joke, saying the same place he touched you, basically saying, hey, did he touch you? Okay, then he didn't touch me. So it's one of those things where
that's somebody
Wade knew
trauma, that's someone dealing with trauma, that's dealt with trauma.
Right. I didn't get that impression. At the same time, you never know what's going on in someone's head, but just based off of what I don't think so. But I was able to find the documentary that I was looking for. Going back to what I was saying earlier about a lot of this information being shadow banned and hidden, I literally typed in the appropriate name of the documentary and it didn't pop up, even though this documentary has over 1.1 million views. So there's a little bit of shadow banning going on, but we're gonna get around it. So this documentary is called Neverland Firsthand. I'm gonna put the link in the description so you guys can check it out when you need to. So we're gonna let it play.
An explosive new documentary set to air on HBO is reigniting claims that Michael Jackson sexually abused children.
You dated Wade Robson, one of the accusers, in Leaving Neverland for over 7 years. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Neverland was unbelievable. I have literally been in every corner, every closet. I mean, there was that level of trust. They've repeatedly changed their stories, and the evidence overwhelmingly undermines it.
You know, he took the easy way. It makes sense.
If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want. They will be destroyed forever.
This just gets wilder every single day.
I will take anybody down that harms a child.
The year was 1993. Michael Jackson was in the middle of his biggest world tour yet, the Dangerous World Tour. He was on top of the world, both musically and professionally. His album sales were through the roof. He had just signed a multi-million-dollar publicity deal with Pepsi, and he owned one of the world's largest music catalogs, ATV Music, which famously included the Beatles. All of this, and then...
Michael Jackson. The pop star is accused of abusing a 13-year-old boy. A 13-year-old boy is accusing the singer of sexual molestation.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. He will not believe it. He will not believe what's going to happen. Beyond his worst nightmares. Sell one more record. If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want. They will be destroyed forever.
there's something that I want to highlight, because after Evan says they don't show it in this video, but I read the transcripts and I've seen the whole video. But when Evan says, when we go through with this, I win big, they're going to be destroyed forever. The next thing that is asked, how is this going to help Jordan? And Evan's response is, that is irrelevant to me. So clearly, he was only interested in money. He's not interested in any type of rehab services for his son, because he didn't need any, because nothing happened to him. He was just interested in making some money. So I wanted to point that out, because, you know, as awful as what he said was before, it was the statement about his son's well-being being irrelevant to him that really hits home for me, because it shows Evan really didn't give a shit about his son. But we'll talk about Evan and Jordan another day. We may not be able to get to that story because that's a long story in itself. We're going to focus on Wade tonight.
There have been many disgusting statements made recently concerning allegations of improper conduct on my part. These statements about me are totally false. I had been the target of an extortion attempt.
Now, I've seen people say that because a settlement was reached in the Jordan Chandler case, that's a sign of Michael's guilt. What are your thoughts on that?
The money that was paid out to Jordy Chandler didn't come from Michael Jackson. It came from his insurance company. Have you ever had a car accident? You say, but it wasn't my fault. The insurance company doesn't give a shit. They make a decision and they do what they want to do. And everybody's going, but if he didn't do this, why is he paying this guy $20 million or the family $20 million? He didn't do it. The insurance company did it.
By this time in his career, Michael was no stranger to lawsuits, and unfortunately for many celebrities, lawsuits and scandals are a part of life, whether the accusations are legitimate or not.
I get sued probably 15 times a year. I have lawyers on a monthly retainer just because you get sued so much when you're famous.
It may be the most famous star in the world. He's certainly one of the richest, and that makes Michael Jackson a prime target for lawsuits.
Denver singer-songwriter Crystal Cartier is suing Jackson, claiming she wrote Dangerous in 1985.
Another day, another lawsuit for Michael Jackson. This time, his former spokeswoman says she's suing the pop star for $44 million.
I believe I Am Annie from Smooth Criminal.
Michael Jackson's alleged son has just gone public.
Why do you think Michael was such a repeated target for lawsuits?
When you have a certain niceness, people take advantage of it.
Okay. How you doing? Sheriff's Department, you have a search warrant? Who else is here? Just you?
We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of lewd act upon a minor child. An explosive new documentary set to air on HBO is reigniting claims that Michael Jackson sexually abused children. Wade Robson and James Safechuck accused the pop icon of molesting them when they were young boys.
I know this must be a hard time.
Yes, definitely.
Because there aren't that many people that know someone quite as well as their ex-partner. You dated Wade Robson, one of the accusers, in Leaving Neverland for over 7 years. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. How did you guys first get together?
I met him approximately in 1991.
Mm-hmm. And you were how old?
Maybe about 9-10 years old.
Cool.
We met at a photo shoot with my Uncle Michael. Everything went really well. We all hung out together. We were friends, becoming friends, I should say. And then next thing I knew, he had asked my Uncle Michael if he could get to know me better. He had started to develop a little crush. He asked my Uncle Michael if he would arrange a situation where we could get to know each other better. So my uncle did that. He had us both meet at the ranch. Wade's family was there, his mother, his sister, himself. I was there with my brother. We were there for about a week, just getting to know each other. And towards the end of that trip, he very sweetly turned to me and asked, would you be my girlfriend? And of course, we had gotten along so well, I said yes.
And that started then and last for 7+
years.
7+ years.
We had about a 10-year friendship relationship. It's just hard to pinpoint the exact So
The
7
exact
plus
time.
years.
So it started as I guess a young innocent thing, but then by the end of it, you were in your late teens.
Absolutely.
So it was
Yeah.
by all means, a real relationship
Absolutely.
by the end of it.
Yeah.
During your time with Wade, what was he like as a boyfriend?
In the beginning of our relationship, let me rephrase this. Throughout the entire relationship, we were very good friends. Everything was very normal, very supportive of one another. We were very close. He was always either at my house or I was at his house. Our families were friends. His mother was friends with my mother. And this went on for years. Everything was fine until he became about 17, 18 years old. And I started to see his behavior change. And that's when he started to cheat. So and when you're with someone so long and you're so close to them, you understand that something is changing. There's a difference in behavior. And as I would confront him about these things, he would say, no, these aren't true. I'm working on this project, or I'm doing this, but constantly lying.
That was something I was going to say. Did he ever bring up any infidelities with you?
Yeah, no, he denied them. And there's a woman's intuition, when something is going on. But I had trust and faith in him, and I believed
As you should. He was your boyfriend.
Absolutely, yeah, and best friend.
You tweeted that you found out that Wade cheated on you with multiple women who he hoped would advance his career. You also say you may know one of them because it was a huge pop music scandal.
Yeah.
We have to say allegedly here. The alleged situation was that he cheated on you with Britney Spears when he was working with her, the slave for you Britney days.
Yes, exactly.
Which then resulted in her relationship with Justin Timberlake ending. Was that the end? Was that the cutoff moment there?
Yes, but that was also one of the situations where I felt something wasn't right. And I was confronting him about that, one of those in particular, which he continued to deny. And then somebody very close to me, who was also close to him, was able to tell me, no, these things are true. And it's not just this one. He's sleeping with this person and this person and this person. And when I spoke to a few of these other women, I found out that these were in fact true.
And these women were people, as you say, who he thought would advance his career, help advance his career.
Absolutely.
It's interesting because a note was found and confirmed to be written by Wade that stated this, and I quote, "My story of abuse and its effects will make me relatable/relevant."
Right.
The last sentence of that note said, "It's time for me to get mine." When questioned and asked what he meant by that last sentence, he said he didn't know and he didn't remember. What do you think he meant by "it's time for me to get mine"?
I think he meant just what he's doing now. He has always been a bit of an opportunist, and he gets it. I'm going to say, I feel comfortable saying this, he gets this from his mother, and he knows how to position himself into different situations that will benefit him in a financial way. So once he had nothing else to climb for, once he was being taken off of the Cirque du Soleil show and other jobs weren't coming through, this was his next outlet.
Right.
And this is what he means by he will get what he deserves, or he will get his.
And it's interesting that you say that came from his mother because, of course, the story goes that Michael first met Wade in Australia in the late 80s. He won a competition to meet Michael, and then they lost contact for a little while, and it was his mother that was trying to get back to Michael, and then eventually it happened, and he invited them over and they met again.
Absolutely.
Now, your relationship with Wade isn't mentioned in the film.
I'm not surprised.
Why do you think that is?
It completely discredits what he's saying. He's saying that he was in a relationship with my uncle, that they were in love and that they were having a relationship, if you will. He's saying that my uncle kept him from women, which is not true. We were just talking about how my uncle put us together. It would discount or discredit the things that he's trying to claim. And I find it fascinating that he thinks he's able to just erase 10 years of his life.
Yeah. What would you, I guess, say to Wade now if you had the opportunity to chat to him?
I would confront him about his lies. I would tell him to stop lying. I'm not curious as to why he's doing it. He needs to stop. I don't care what his reasoning is as far as trying to be relevant, desperate for money, whatever it is. These lies need to stop, and it's not okay. This man, my uncle, took care of him and did very well by him and his family, and he knows that.
I've got Brad Sundberg on the phone with me now. He worked with Michael across an 18-year span as his technical director, both on his albums and in personal projects, including Neverland Valley Ranch. He currently is running a traveling seminar called In the Studio with MJ. Brad, in Wade's lawsuit against the Jackson estate, he mentions that some of the abuse took place at a recording studio named Record One. He said Michael had a sort of green room and that the abuse went on in there. Now, you were at the studio every day with Michael. What are your thoughts on these claims?
Well, Michael did have what we call the private lounge. Whenever you work with an artist of any magnitude, they usually have a lounge where they can go and take a meeting, grab a phone call, grab a nap, watch TV, whatever they want to do. The studio was very closed. Nobody came into the studio really without a reason for being there. So it wasn't like Michael had guests there every day. I mean, the guests were actually pretty infrequent. The perception that Michael always had kids there, kids and chimps and, clowns juggling bowling pins, just there's really no validity to that. We were working.
So you don't believe any of the claims that the abuse happened in the studio?
Let me pull you back and do a bit of a big picture. Number one, I'm a dad. At that point, I had 2 daughters. I've worked with kids in my church for years. I'm very aware of kids. Not in a million years did I ever see a child around Michael Jackson that looked like they had been distressed, hurt, abused. I can't, put my hand on a Bible and say, absolutely nothing happened in that room. It's just, there weren't that many instances. I remember seeing Wade once or twice at the studio. It was not a regular occurrence at all. And there wasn't a sense of wrongdoing or, oh my goodness, what's going on?
Brad, you played a very large part in Michael's vision that was Neverland Valley Ranch. Michael brought you in to design the music and video systems throughout the ranch. There aren't that many people that got to see, I guess, Neverland as thoroughly as you did. So these rumors of, Neverland being some sort of house of horrors and a place to lure children, what are your thoughts on that?
If you hear a chuckle in my voice, it's just out of sheer frustration. Neverland was unbelievable. It was such a peaceful, safe, fun place designed very specifically for kids that were underprivileged or burn victims or sick kids, Make-A-Wish kids. Yes, I have literally been in every corner, every closet. I kind of joke with people good-naturedly that I've literally been under Michael Jackson's bed, just pulling speaker wires. I mean, there was that level of trust. Was there a lock on Michael's bedroom? Yeah, it's his bedroom. I have a lock on my bedroom. If I was there to work, it's not like there were people telling me, oh, Brad, you can't open that drawer, you can't open that closet, you can't go. There was none of that. There was nothing that even hinted at, oh, wow, what is this guy into?
Right.
At Michael's, it was Shirley Temple and Disney music. And it really was. That's what the guy dug.
Brad, now I read that you helped put a youth worker in prison after you learned that they were harming children. If you had any suspicions of Michael, would you have, I guess, reacted the same way?
Yeah, I was in a completely different situation where somebody that I knew and somebody that I was close with actually was harming children. And I immediately, for lack of a better word, turned on that gentleman. And it's not something I dwell on, not something I talk about very much. But when somebody wants to throw it in my face that, well, Brad's just protecting his friend or whatever, no, that's not how I'm wired. I will take anybody down that harms a child.
So I'm talking to Scott Ross, who was one of Hollywood's top private investigators. He was the private investigator for the defense in the Michael Jackson trial in 2005. Did you ever find anything during your time working on the trial for the defense when you thought, hang on, maybe I'm on the wrong team here?
Nope. And that segues into the real meat of the question. If I truly, for 1/10 of 1 second, believed that Wade Robson was telling the truth, he wouldn't have been my first witness. The reason that we put him on first is because he was our strongest witness. He was the most credible. He was the most believable. When the prosecution goes, they go first. So when you call your first witness, the prosecution has already put on their case. They have in their mind, have already hammered away at the jury going guilty, 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 guilty. So by the time you get your turn, the time you get your bite at the apple, the first thing you want to do is put on your strongest witness, because the jury sits there and they listen to your witness. If you get a strong witness, the first thing they're going to think is, oh, wait a minute, okay, it's not so cut and dry. Let's hear what else they have to say. That's why you always, always, always start with your strongest witness. In our case, that was Wade Robson. Wade Robson had to get through 3 seasoned, experienced, intelligent attorneys. How is it that when those 3 attorneys, this was not a surprise attack, those 3 attorneys were very seasoned, experienced, 3 attorneys with cross-examination history under their belt, prosecutors, got together the night before, prepared their attack. How are they not able to break Wade Robson? If you're trying to hide the truth, you're going to waver, you're going to do whatever. They went hard on Wade, a lot harder than they did on Macaulay, and a lot harder than they did on Brett Barnes, and simply because he was the first. And the reason he didn't change his story, because he was telling the truth. There's nothing to change.
In Leaving Neverland, James Safechuck tells a story where Michael had asked him to testify. He says he refused, which led Michael to get angry and they never spoke again. Do you recall that situation? Do you recall James being asked to testify?
Jimmy Safechuck was never an issue during the trial. We did no work on him. We did no preparation on him. He was not an issue. He was never, ever, ever going to testify. The court was never, ever going to allow him to testify. The court, Judge Melville, took him out of the mix long before the trial started. Bottom line is Jimmy Safechuck was never, ever going to talk to anybody. So whatever all of this nonsense is about, it's about personal greed.
Now, from my research and understanding of Michael, it appears that he surrounded himself with children because they saw a friend. Adults saw dollar signs. Opportunities. What do you think his mindset towards surrounding himself with children? Was it exactly that? You know, he saw people that weren't going to take advantage, screw him over.
It was beyond that. It was living vicariously through people. He didn't have a childhood. He was in studio all the time. You know, he would ask us, me and my brothers. He would say, when we talked to him about a birthday party, he would be so intrigued. He'd be like, "What was it like?" You know.
Now I want to talk about something that's mentioned in the film, Leaving Neverland. They mentioned love faxes from Michael. I've got what the notes say here. One of the faxes, the love faxes, say, "Hello, Doodoo. You are the best of the kid dancers. Keep on towards perfection. You are now inspiring me to get better." Another one of the faxes says, "Make me happy, little one, and be the best. I love you." Now, as someone who knew Michael, as you say, so well, do these notes sound like him grooming this family?
No. And there's hundreds of, I wouldn't say hundreds, but there's tens and tens of us that have these notes.
We've got some of the notes here.
I have these, my brothers have these, you know, he was like that. If he thought his words could help you or inspire you, he would write you a letter.
There's this note here that where he says Uncle Doodoo. He calls himself Uncle Doodoo, of course.
He's called himself Uncle Doodoo to us a lot.
In this note, he's calling Wade Doodoo.
Yeah. It's nothing uncommon about it, but in the wrong context. And when it's sinister context, people that don't know him or that don't know the context of it will look at it and be like, well, that's weird.
This one says, "Please rehearse. I'm proud of you." So
I love you all.
These are just really notes of encouragement.
He has, I have a poster that's, he wrote, "You are the world and the world is yours." He was like that. He was like that. And that's, I think, the magic of him too. He was always wanting you to be the best person you could be.
I want to talk about a situation that happened between Wade and a Cirque du Soleil show. Of course, there's a Cirque du Soleil show in Vegas. Now, in May 2011, a couple of years before the show premiered, Wade sent an email to the creative team at Cirque stating, and I quote, I always wanted to do this MJ show badly. He then goes on in this email to say, I know that I am meant to do this show. I am passionate to do this show. I want to make it amazing for me, for you, for Cirque, and of course, for Michael. The gig ended up going to Jamie King.
Jamie King, yes.
So obviously he didn't get the gig. I want to read a timeline. I've got a timeline here.
Oh, nice, okay.
May 2011, sent that email asking for the gig. July 2011 interview, he stated that he was starting on the show.
I'm starting on Cirque du Soleil Michael Jackson show, which is exciting and terrifying all at the same time because it's such a huge responsibility.
Sometime after that, Jamie King got the gig. Late 2012, Wade starts drafting a book about the alleged abuse. No publisher picks it up. 1st of May 2013, Wade files a civil lawsuit against the Michael estate for monetary compensation with claims of childhood sexual abuse. 16th of May 2013, Wade goes public with the allegations on television. A week later, May 23rd, 2013, Michael Jackson 1 Cirque du Soleil starts. It seems a little bit, it seems a little
when
bit.
you lay it out.
When you lay it out like that.
People, you need to lay it out like that to people, otherwise they don't see it. They don't see the
understand
motivation of why he's doing certain things.
And of course, in between there was Julian's Auctions,
Which
who
2011,
in 2011, who have tweeted that Wade wanted to stay anonymous.
Yes.
He was selling some of his most, prized possessions. So it seems like during this time, and Wade has said that during this time he was having a mental breakdown, but it seems like a bit of a financial crisis as well.
He took the easy way.
Are there any other times post Michael passing where he asked to be part of a Jackson project?
Well, there is the memorial.
The memorial.
Yeah, the memorial was the first time. After that, Wade wanted to see the kids again, and so I made that happen. And it feels like a betrayal because, especially, I wish I could take it back. No, he was very thankful when it happened. And Joy even said at Havenhurst, my biggest fear is to lose contact with the family.
Wow.
And that to me, it says it all. It says it all. Like once they lost contact, once that Cirque job ended, that was like the official, you're cut off.
Right.
And it's almost like a disgruntled employee.
Right.
I'm going to hurt you now.
When was the last time you saw either Wade or the Robson family? You mentioned the memorial, but post that.
Post that, I would see the Robson family often because we have a mutual friend. We have a very close mutual friend. And so every Christmas I would see Chantel and Joy. This was the first time this past year, 2018 Christmas, that I was arriving with my wife and my baby
at a Christmas party?
At a Christmas party, and she was leaving.
Joy?
No, Chantel.
Chantel, the sister.
Was leaving with her, I think it's her husband. And she had her head down, and when I said hi to her, and it told me a lot. It didn't tell me a lot back then because I was just like, "That's odd."
Yeah,
we've all always been somewhat cordial, but now knowing the situation, it makes sense.
Did you you ever post 2013 say to anyone in the family, that was odd that, Wade is saying this now?
No, I've talked to people that were around them or friends of them, and everyone has been somewhat trying to be supportive to Wade because they were friends with him, but at the same time didn't believe him, or at least 100% didn't believe him. That's where it's, and I've made that statement in many interviews that, if this is about Wade and James Safechuck, and it's about their journey and their discovery and whatever they want to say, it's like the reason they don't have a best friend that they interviewed is because a best friend probably didn't want to be on camera.
Charles Thompson is on the phone right now. He's a crime journalist and investigative reporter who is based in the UK. He's been studying the Jackson case for many years now. Charles, some of Michael's fans have been quick to find some inconsistencies within these guys' stories. Can you share some of those with me?
Yeah, well, of course, the glaring inconsistency to begin with is that both of them have previously testified in Michael Jackson's favor. Then you look into the history of their allegations since they came forward, and they've repeatedly changed their stories since then. Wade Robson gives various conflicting stories as to why he testified in 2005, beginning with, I didn't realize that I'd been abused, and then changing into, did realize I'd been abused, but I didn't want to be responsible for sending him to prison, and then evolving into, I did realize that I'd been abused, but I was bullied and forced into testifying by Michael Jackson's lawyers. His story keeps changing. That's nothing to do with childhood trauma. That's a very recent event that happened when he was an adult, and he still can't get his story straight. I think the most important thing for people to know, the film starts off quite convincingly by presenting the viewer with a lot of evidence that substantiates the early part of the story about meeting Michael Jackson, about hanging out with him for the first times. They're playing home movies, they're showing you photographs. And so they're luring you in and getting you to believe in these guys' narrative by showing you evidence that corroborates that, yes, they did meet and know Michael Jackson. But then as soon as it departs and takes a dark turn and starts talking about abuse, what you notice is all of the evidence just disappears. For instance, when they start talking about going to Neverland and having sleepovers, there is no evidence of this. And you have to go to the court documents to find the evidence which either corroborates or undermines these allegations, and the evidence overwhelmingly undermines it.
I've also seen some claims that James Safechuck's stories have been copied from a book. Can you confirm that? Is there any truth to that?
Well, it's a matter of interpretation. So there's a guy called Victor Gutierrez. In the 90s, he published a book which was called Michael Jackson Was My Lover, and which said on the cover that it was based on the secret diary of Geordie Chandler. It's almost like a 50 Shades of Grey for pedophiles. It's like a piece of erotic literature about Michael Jackson supposedly having sex many, many times with Geordie Chandler. And many of the details from that book are very similar to details from James Safechuck's allegations, even though that book was completely dismissed by the Chandler family, who said it was a work of fiction and that they had nothing to do with it. So it is suspicious. I don't think it's substantiated. I wouldn't stake my reputation on it and go as far as to say that Safechuck has copied the book, but there are notable similarities.
So here are some of the similarities between James Safechuck's lawsuit and this book. Pages 57 and 58 of the book mentions Michael rented movies with historic and foreign themes that featured minors participating in lewd acts. Safechuck's lawsuit, paragraph 60, says that Michael showed him foreign books and movies that featured minors engaging in the same lewd acts mentioned in the book. Another similarity, page 40 of the book says that Jackson was jealous of a girl that Jordan Chandler liked. Paragraph 39 of Safe Chuck's lawsuit says Jackson was jealous of Safe Chuck's crush on Sheryl Crow, who was Michael's backup singer at the time. Pages 37 and 38 of the book says that when going to sleep with Michael, Jordan Chandler noticed that Michael put a bandage over his nose to hold it in place. Safe Chuck's lawsuit, paragraph 24, says before going to sleep, Safe Chuck noticed Michael used a bandage to cover his nose. In the book, page 80, it says Michael made the children drink alcohol. In Safe Chuck's lawsuit, paragraph 60, it says Michael made Safe Chuck drink alcohol. Book pages 21 and 22, it says that Jordan Chandler was jealous of Brett Barnes, who was Michael Jackson's friend at the time, who to this day says that nothing happened between them. In Safe Chuck's lawsuit, paragraph 62, Safe Chuck was jealous of Brett Barnes. Now, those are just a few of the similarities there. There are a few more, but due to the graphic nature of them, I'm not going to be sharing them. Obviously, this is all alleged, but it's hard to deny that this book shares many similarities with James Safe Chuck's lawsuit and stories. This just gets wilder every single day.
They were shutting down channels. They were shutting down Twitter accounts. Anyone who would post this information because they claimed that it was harassment or bullying. And it just goes to show you that social media, your accounts can easily be shut down. You can be muzzled. There can be a suppression of information. So it's very important for people to do their own research. Don't just look at what you see on someone's timeline and just assume it's the truth. And I feel as though someone like Michael, he deserves a lot more credibility for all of the humanitarian acts that he's did in his career. It's a shame that you do all of this good work and then a person can lie on you and people don't even try to do a little research. So there's books, there's documentaries, and I think that I'm going to create like a little playlist of all of the great references that are available to you on YouTube that can, help you navigate through this whole, deep dive in the Michael Jackson case, because it is a rabbit hole and it involves a lot of different characters, and you have to have a little bit of an understanding of the legal system to understand why Michael Jackson moved the way he did. Now, we've been doing this stream almost 3 hours, and I don't stream like this, so I'm about to wrap it up. I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight, and I want to thank Lashid for definitely being a great co-host. I know she's going to be taking some time off of YouTube, so definitely check out her channel. She has a lot of great content there. And shout out to all of you in the chat for supporting me through this stream. Have a great night.